Set in Georgia, America, Road Atlanta has been one of endurance racing's most famous racetrack. It's located just north of Braselton, and it's always used for a variety of events. However, each and every fall, the Petit Le Mans is one of the events that fans and drivers around the world always look forward to. First hosted in 1998, we're making our second trip to the Petit Le Mans this year, organised by the Neo Endurance Series. This is the Neo Endurance Series iRacing Petit Le Mans. Will Vincent, along with Scott Woodris and Wendell Shenworth and Dan Blake. And we're going to immediately start by having a look through your qualifying grid. We'll run through the top 5 in each class. In the LMPs, we've got ourselves Jorn Jens, pole position, time 1 minute 8.337. Mac Backham alongside him in row number 1. Enzo Benito in 3rd place, Andre Borcher 4th, and then Tosamo Carla in the 5th position. All of the qualifying times will be coming up on your screen momentarily, but we're going to head over to GT1. Anders Dahl, he is qualified and pole for his class, 1 minute 14.730. Maxim Ramstein 2nd. Jerry Lottery in 3rd, Blake Townend 4th, William Levike in the 5th position, and then GT2, Roop Tequila, Jan-Paul Nielis, Eric Verdorf, Philip Diaz, and Mike Venison. They are your top 5 drivers. And Randolph, we're working ourselves on the pace lap already, but these guys have had to do a lot of preparation for this race. Pre-qualifying was very, very tight.
Oh yeah, this has been one of the tightest fields I've ever seen on iRacing for road courses. The HPDs were, from 15 car field in pre-qualifying, they were separated by a second. GT1 was separated by 3/4 of a second, and GT2 and the Ford GT pre-qualifying. The difference between being in the race and out of the race was less than 1/1000th of a second, and it was insane qualifying. It's going to be an insane race with an insane field of drivers. It's going to be awesome.
Track temperature right now, it is 79 degrees and moderately cloudy. We have a northeasterly wind right now of about 8 miles an hour. That's been changing all the way through qualifying. Humidity right now is about 49%, as you see the pace car working himself down the back straightaway. And of course, Road Atlanta, the track is 2.54 miles in length, 12 corners. And because it's so short, Randy, it means traffic will come into play quite a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting the LMP2 cars to start hitting traffic less than 10 laps into this race. The GT2 cars, they're putting laps down in the 1 minute 20s. The LMP2s are running 1 minute 10. So it's going to be great. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be exactly what you're going to want from a multi-class sports car race.
Your keys to racing today: manage the traffic. Find places to make safe, clean passes on your traffic. Don't get held up too much. Manage your concentration. It is so easy to put a foot wrong. This is a very fast and narrow racetrack, and more importantly, control your temper, because it's very easy to lose a couple of seconds here or there, but it's a long race. It's 2.5 hours long, and you see out front, Jorn Jens is picking up the pace. We are underway in the Neo Endurance Series Petit Le Mans. The cars storm down into turn 1 for the first time. It looks as though all of the LMP cars are going to get through okay. The GT1 cars coming down now into turn 1 for the first time. They are all pretty much single file. There's no issues there. And now the full GT cars, they make their first trip down into turn number 1. They're a lot more spread out, and you've got one car, Aaron Yamin, who was right on the brakes there. He almost gets sideways, however, he is able to keep it going. So clean first half of the lap. That is what we wanted. Out front, however, Jorn Jens leads by about half a second over Mac Backham. Enzo Benito in 3rd, and those 3 cars seem as though they're pulling away early.
Yeah, top 3 in the LMP2 cars. Probably, they were all a bit quicker than everyone else in pre-qualifying and in qualifying for this. So they're probably going to be gapping them pretty quick. Looks like in the GT cars, everyone still through clean, which is actually saying quite a bit on a track like this. As tight as close as this track can be, it's not really uncommon to see any issues.
We had 40 cars make the trip over to Road Atlanta, and it looks like they're all going to get through. Lap number 1, Jorn Jens is your leader in LMP. In GT1, it is Anders Dahl leading the way, and it's Roop Tequila who is leading the way in the GT2 cars. But I have to say, in each of the 3 classes, unlike what we've seen in some previous years, where it literally has just been a 1 or a 2 horse race, there's about 4 or 5 guys in each class who can take victory in any one. And It's so wide open this year.
Yeah, this is, in terms of GT car racing on iRacing, this is what I would call an all-star event. I mean, all the big guns and all the classes showed up, put in time. I mean, it was just, I think it's the most stacked field I've ever seen outside of the iRacing Pro Series.
I tell you what, out front, it is Jorn Jens making a breakaway now in that number 64 car. So he is starting to eke out a little bit of an advantage. And as he comes out the chicane for the first time, sorry, for the second time now, coming down to complete lap number 2, you'll see on the top of your screen how much time is left remaining in this session. But a good second early on, that can mean nothing as soon as you get into traffic, Scott, because it's such a tight sector 1. If you get held up in the S's, you can lose 2, maybe 3 seconds easily.
Yeah, the S's is the S's is one of those places where you can lose a lot of time early, and you don't really want to get caught up there. Like the prototypes obviously don't want to be stuck behind the GT cars. But the thing is that it's a place where you can't force a pass either. If you try to pass the GT cars in one of those corners, you end up in the wall, guaranteed. The GT cars don't have the speed to alter their lines or the grip to alter their lines. So it's going to be really, really important that these HPD drivers, these prototype drivers, either get by before the S's or are patient enough and just stick behind them all the way through.
It looks as though that Kevin Viekemans and Timo Verhofstadt in GT1 have been battling on early on. It looks as though that Verhofstadt was able to get alongside, however, he falls back into 9th place in class. Also, I did notice that Jorn Jens, he lost a big chunk of that time. Matt Backham is now back down to less than half a second behind Jorn Jens, and that all happened going through that double apex right-hander in the middle portion of the lap. And perhaps Jorn Jens trying to push that advantage out too early, making his first mistake of the day.
Yeah, Jorn, he's up there in the lead, but one of the things he needs to want to do is try to gap Mac Backham as early as he can, because although there is some pretty high downforce sections on this track, like the S's and the turn 1 and turn 12. Oh, and Jorn Jens gets 2 tracks off, and Mac Backham goes off too.
Backham will just about keep it off the wall there. This is going to hurt him because now this is the fastest part of the racetrack they're coming into. He falls down into the 4th position. Tomiso Kano won't quite be close enough, but you talk about those guys wanting to eke out the advantage early. Scott, what they've essentially done is now they've hurt their races very early on as Andre Borcher right on the rear of Enzo Benito right now.
Well, the main thing is you never want to try and win this race in only a few laps. You've got 2.5 hours of racing. There's no need to be battling so hard in the first couple of laps to try and get position. It's a long race. You can easily make it up. So people can make mistakes. Pit stops can go wrong. You can get caught up in traffic. There's always time to make it up. So there's no need for taking unnecessary risks. And the first few laps of an endurance race is just not needed.
And right now, the 2-car of Enzo Benito all over the curve there in Sector 1 before they come down into the S's. That was turn number 4 on the racetrack. But it's that point, you know, the pre-race nerves, the jitters, they've now finally gone away. You talked about this just before we went green as well, Randy. We are going to be hitting traffic with these LMP cars very shortly. Jeremy Bouteloup there is going to get himself past Roger Cronin as they come down into turn number 7. Bouteloup there in the Radicals car being able to slot it past Cronin in the other Radicals machine. So he moves himself up into the 6th position on the racetrack. But traffic is going to come very quickly. And if you don't calm down now, it can be very hairy in the next few laps.
Yeah, the important thing with traffic is the ability to stay calm. If you start getting really, really anxious, really, really nervous, generally that's when you start making mistakes. And mistake at Road Atlanta, I mean, we saw Mac Backham get kind of lucky in terms of not ending his race, but I have a feeling in terms of mistakes, that's going to be the exception rather than the rule today.
We have one car classified out the race. That is Simon Cattell in the number 18 car. We'll figure out what happened to him in just a moment's time. But meanwhile, we're going to turn our attention to William the Vike. And he right now is pushing on the racetrack, and he's trying to go down to the inside into the chicane of the number 765 car of Jari Lottari, and he will complete that pass on him, moving him up now into 5th position in class. I was just about to say there what happened. Oh, it's Viekemans getting sideways through the chicane. But Simon could tell it was an incident that happened, as far as I can see, down in the S's section of the racetrack. And Scott, it is so fast down there. The LMP cars have a lot of grip. However, you know, you go offline, you try and turn that car too much, you catch a white line, it can be over very, very quickly.
It was a very tricky braking zone because, of course, you're approaching it. It's a very long backstrip, very curving as well. And you hit the brakes with somewhat 170, 180 miles an hour in one of those P2 cars. And especially you've got to get around traffic because they've got to brake early because, of course, they don't produce as much downforce, as much grip. So they've got to be obviously much wary on the brakes. So if you're not careful if you trap it, it can all end quite badly. Then, of course, if you do go straight on, you've got a big sand trap that can always catch you. What we're looking at now is William Levesque now challenging on to the back of Blake Townend, and that they're going to go side to side down towards that braking zone we're talking about. It's a downhill braking zone as well, so it doesn't help to stop the car in terms of momentum. And look at that simple pass around the outside, and there goes Levesque up another place, so he's starting to charge. He only was about 3rd or 4th in pre-qualifying, didn't have all the best of qualifying, he was qualified P5. But it looks like he got a bit of a poor start as well, so he's managed to make his way up through the field now, and he is one of the fastest Corvette drivers in iRacing that I know, so this is looking pretty decent so far.
Yeah, William was saying all week during pre-qualifying, he actually didn't like his car in qualifying, and he said that he could push it a lot more and be much more confident with it in race trim, so I think we're going to see Will picking up a lot of spots through this race.
And meanwhile, we have got ourselves some good action going on out front in the LMPs and GT cars. I'll tell you what, though, Andre Borgia looking down to the inside of Enzo Benito, not going to be able to complete that pass there. Benito is able to hold it on the right-hand side of the racetrack, and they're working themselves through the traffic now. This is going to be critical for Benito. If he can get past this traffic and perhaps slot in, as Borgia will just be able to get past one. No, he won't. And this is exactly what I was talking about, Rand. If you get held up, you know, into one of these fast sweeping sections of the racetrack, you lose a ton of time. And Andre Borgia, who, let's not forget, was just about to complete a pass over Enzo Benito, he lost 2 seconds in about 4 corners.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get frustrated with that. But like I was saying, it's important not to, because it's going to happen to your other competitors. It's going to happen to pretty much everyone. I mean, we're talking about a 2.5 hour long race, probably going to be somewhere in the realm of, I don't know, 100 laps or so. There's going to be a lot of chances for your competition to get hung up.
So we'll run through your top 5 in each class very quickly as things begin to settle down. We've completed about 10 minutes of the race, and Jorn Jens is your leader in LMP2 with Mac Backham in 2nd, Enzo Benito 3rd, Andre Borgia 4th, and Tommaso Carla rounding out your top 5. In GT1, is Anders Dahl leading from Maxim Ramstein. Dahl getting very sideways there, coming out of turn number 5. Ramstein 2nd, Jahari Lotti in 3rd, Blake Townend in 4th, and William Levite has fallen back behind Townend by the look of it, so he's now running in the 5th position. And in GT2, it's Tequila from Nulis, from Diaz, from Oliver Brand, and then Mike Knudsen rounds out your top 5. Let's have a look at Levite once again. In fact, we'll try and go on board.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Philip Diaz went off coming out of turn 12, and he just lost the spot to Oliver Brandt on that lap. I'm not sure what happened there. I think he might have just run wide, but he's very slow going down the front straightaway.
And Levite is going to try that pass on the outside. He is not going to be able to complete it, however. He does get a good run through the centre of the chicane, however. This might give him a bit of a chance as they work down into turn number 1. Of course, these GT1 cars very unsettled in that final corner. You go downhill, very bumpy, but Levite falls back into that 5th position. We'll get an update on what happened to Diaz as well, and see whether he is still, in fact, circulating himself on the racetrack for the time being. Diaz, again, in that number 9 GT2 car. He qualified for this race, 4th in class. And by my watch right now, he's fallen behind a couple of drivers, but he's still circulating.
Yeah, I believe he's in 4th right now. He was 3rd behind Rupi and Jan-Paul Newey, who are currently kind of running away from the field in a class of their own, which is not really all that surprising from Jan-Paul and Rupi.
And he might get a good run. I'm having a look with Rupi. Coming down into turn number 1, you see the traffic really does come into play. And Scott, if you're one of the say slower classes, the GT1 and the GT2 class, then you've got to have very good heads-up driving, as it does look as though that Levike has been able to get himself back past Blake Townend now, so he's back up into 4th in class. But you've got to have very good heads-up driving, and you will see, we've seen it quite often, the GT1 and the GT2 cars complaining about the fact that the LMP cars are taking very risky moves, but at the same time, it's a give and take situation here.
Exactly. There's two sides to this. Of course, the LMP cars, the faster cars, have got to basically play their part, and they've got to time it properly, because we've seen accidents before where the LMP cars have charged through, and in some cases they're so quick, the GT1 cars, the slower cars, don't actually get a chance to really look in their mirrors, and by the time they look to see where the LMP car might be, it's already gone through, and then there's contact. But the GT2 cars have got to be sensible as well. They've got to know, they've got to respect the blue flags, they've got to watch these guys, exactly like here, watching the battle now between Levike and Townend as well. They've just gone past the 4 GT car, did exactly the right thing. Saw them coming, looked in the mirrors, was very careful, let them through, and that's sensible driving. They need to continue to do that, but of course the GT1 cars have to oblige when they get to the P2 cars coming around them. I can see Levike now is now lining up Yari Latari for P3 in class. He's going to make a dive down towards the chicane. He's going to pull alongside, he'll be a little bit later on the brakes. Is he going to be able to make it stop? No, he can't. And he has to slot in behind, and this will give Blake Townend another chance to get back past him. But so far, Levike is going to be close. I think he might just be able to make a pass if he can get alongside into turn 1.
Having a look in in LMP as well, it looks like Andre Borgia has lost another position. He's now down into 5th in class, and he is behind Tommaso Carla in the number 33 car. So Borgia, he is struggling early on in this race, Randy.
Yeah, could be a variety of things. He could be running maybe a bit more fuel, a bit heavier. Might be running a lower fuel mapping, because in those cars you do have different fuel settings that some have more speed than others. Could be a few different things. We're getting word that William Levike just went off.
And Borgia almost goes off there as well. We'll have a look see with William Levike. Looks as though that Levike is still in position. No, he's not. Townend is passed again, and it's a 1.9 second gap right now between Levike and Townend. And this battle will go on throughout the entire race. The Radical Series car of Blake Townend, and then you also, of course, have the Iron X Racing car. And this was down into turn number 3 and just missed the braking zone. Had to take the escape road. Very lucky there.
Yeah, it looks like he either misjudged the braking marker or the car in front of him, or maybe just locked up the rears just a little bit and just got a little sideways.
And of course,
real easy to do in that braking zone.
Then, of course, he was stuck behind the GT2 car throughout the S's himself. That cost him a little bit more time. He is still circulating on the racetrack. No damage to him, however. Let's go and check in on GT2 a little bit with Dan. Dan, it looks as though that Jan-Paul Niels is not making life easy for Roop Tequila. The gap between those two drivers still remains less than a second on the racetrack. It's about 0.6 as they come out of that double apex right-hander at turn number 6 and 7.
Yeah, Jan-Paul Niels is still very, very close to Roop Tequila at the moment, and they're pulling out a gap between the next two cars, Oliver Brandt and Philip Diaz. At the moment, we've got two pairs of two ready for the start. And
something. Yeah, and meanwhile, Phil Diaz is trying to make the pass on Oliver Brandt in GT2 as well. This is a battle for 3rd position on the racetrack. Diaz on the outside, and it looks as though that Oliver Brandt will be able to keep that GT2 car working on the inside. But Diaz gets a better run out of the chicane. This might help him as they come down the hill. He can try and set himself up alongside down into turn number 1. Diaz having to use just a little bit of the brake, however. That will hurt his momentum a little bit. He won't quite be close enough to dive it down to the inside. He will have to wait another lap. And Scott, you can
Oh, wait, we've had an issue with Jan-Paul Niels. He's dropped out of the... He's currently not on track right now.
Yeah, Niels is out of the race from 2nd position there in the Ford GT car. We'll get an update on what his issues are in just a little bit. But, Scott, down into turn number 1, you can pass down there. It's very risky, however, as this time Bryant goes very sideways in turn number 5. This will give Diaz a chance to close that gap down once again. But, you know, passing opportunities, they can be limited here, especially if you're running a people in your own class.
Yeah, definitely, because again, if you're letting cars through, of course, you've got to keep space, and this is not a wide circuit. There's not really that many chances where you can go side by side, especially in that first half of a lap. So, especially turn 1's very risky, and of course it's uphill as well, so effectively if you're going side by side, And because the apex of the next corner is blind, you can't see where you have to turn in until you get right at the top of the crest. So if you're on the wrong line, it's easy. There's a chance that you can definitely go across onto the grass somewhere and potentially ruin your race for a while. So it is risky, but if you can pull it off, then you're kind of a bit of a hero in your own team.
So let's turn our attention back to the LMP class. Jorn Jens has now got himself a 3.2 second gap over Enzo Benito, but Matt Backham is now running in that third position. He's fallen well back now in that number 16 Radical car, and Dan, he is now 5 seconds behind Enzo Benito.
Yeah, 5 seconds behind Enzo Benito. He's starting to pull away a little bit there from Matt Backham, but we've seen Matt Backham in previous races. He has got the pace. He's at the moment stuck behind a couple of GT1 and a GT2, and that is not going to help him. And Tommaso Carla might be able to sniff a bit of an opportunity here.
And Carla is very close on that number 33 car. The traffic there, that see it hurt him there coming into turn 5. This will allow Carla to try and go down the inside, but then of course the GT2 traffic was on the right hand side. Carla couldn't make that run, and you've always got to preempt where the slower cars are gonna be on the racetrack, Randy. And Carla would have had the chance to breeze on the outside. He chose the inside line, of course, short away ran into the next corner. Wasn't able to get the job done, however.
Yeah, being able to predict what those slower cars are going to do in front of you is it's a difficult but necessary skill to hone for this series. That we see him diving around another Ford GT going into the chicane. But yeah, just like what we were saying earlier, though, the S's are can be potentially deadly for these faster prototypes, especially when they get caught up behind those GT cars.
Give you an update on cars scored out of the race. Of course, Jean-Paul Nealis in a 969 car. He had some electrical issues. He is out of the race. And Eric Vedoff as well is out in that number 94 car. Just having a look back to see what happened to him. Oh no, that was down into turn number 2. He got himself wide coming through turn 1. Get himself a replay. And then he just spun that car around in the 94 car. He tagged someone as well.
Oh. Sorry, changing position. Sorry to interrupt you there, but we had a change position, and it is for third place. Matt Backham has lost it to Tommaso Carla, and it's just because we've had so much traffic they're trying to work their way through. And looks like Backham a little bit shaky on the exit of the S's, and that allowed Carla through. But I think Backham's going to get a run here. But they're through so much GT traffic here, it's unbelievable. And Andre Butcher's fallen back. In fact, he's lost a place. In fact, he's lost it to Roderick Croonen, and he could be under attack now from Jeremy Bootsloop. So of course, Butcher and Bootsloop know each other from the WCS, but I think he's just about to hold on for the moment.
Yeah, Bootsloop slots in. Those 3 cars running in the 5th, 6th and 7th position, separated by less than 1 second on the racetrack right now. And it did look as though that Borcher was going to try and find a gap there coming into turn number 1. You see, once again, traffic playing its part. Borcher could get alongside. If the traffic worked better for him, he might be able to make that pass into turn number 1. Wasn't able to do, however, and now slow Corvette traffic down into turn number 3. And this is what I'm talking about. Not only are these guys now losing time by fighting with each other, they're also going to be losing time to the leaders. There's contact there. And
like
that, I think, could be avoidable contact. And that was between 2 Radical drivers. And I'm just having a look at the replay of that. And Townend just turned into the LMP car there of Roderick Crone. I don't think he saw him coming. And I was talking to Egil Sandfield and Neil Heckins, who of course are doing race control for this race. Borcher goes round the outside and will complete that pass on Roderick Crone, and the very risky way of doing it. But the race control take a very dim view to avoidable contact in this series, Randy.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to pull out a avoidable contact there for Roderick. That is a corner you can pass him, but in order to do it, you have to be alongside before the turn-in. And he kind of dove in pretty late, and I think that's definitely going to net a black flag probably for Jordan. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't.
And he, of course, loses the position there to Andre Borcher. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of damage to that number 42 Radical's machine as well. And Borcher able to use traffic to his advantage there. He's been able to build up a second gap. And Jeremy Bootsloop is now all over the rear of Roderick Cronin. And again, it's 2 Radical drivers, the 42 and the 30. And Radical's got a lot of drivers represented in this race here today, Dan. One of the biggest GT teams, along with, for example, the Onyx Racing team, we talked about them quite a lot in this race as well. Maestro ID well represented, and a number of other teams really well represented today.
Yeah, it's good to see the big boys of iRacing coming out. Obviously, Radical's got a very big LMP program with at least 3 cars in it, and also they got Blake in the GT and a couple of other drivers, I think, as well. So it's very good to see them here. You also said that Onyx Racing involved as well, My3ID. It's really good, really. The only team we're really missing is maybe Team Redline, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day indeed. Meanwhile, Borch is working himself through some traffic, trying to eke out that gap on Roger Craden. Also trying to close up to the rear of Mac Backham as well. But let's not forget, started this race in 2nd position, now is running in the 4th spot. And I said the key to race and making sure that you don't get frustrated.
Oh, sorry, I think Cronin was very lucky not to get collected by a GT1 car there, because that was one of the GT1 cars. I didn't quite see who it might have been. It was Andres Star. That was the GT1 leader. GT1 leader was very lucky. He got sideways through the final corner, almost got collected by Cronin, and now this has put both Maxime Ramstein and Jari Latai right onto his gearbox right now. So this could be a change for the GT1 leaders to head through the S's.
And I tell you what, I'm having a look at the replay of that, and it was so close to hitting that concrete barrier down into the final corner. But Ramstein is just 0.7 of a second back now, Randy.
Yeah, what I was going to say there was Andrews just put a left rear wheel on the grass and he just spun his car around into that turn 12, that penultimate corner. And it'll be interesting to see what Andrews does. He had a pretty good lead, and I would imagine that if he were to maybe just back off just a tad bit on the racetrack edges, back off the pace a little bit, he'd probably be able to still stretch out the gap while being much safer. So.
Don't forget, by the way,
William Levesque and Blake Tanner going side by side down the back straight. I think Levesque is going to take the position from Tanner round the outside. He just about gets the car turned in there. William Levesque up into 4th position in class in GT1.
Don't forget, by the way, you can keep in contact with us on Twitter all race long. Use the hashtag GlacierTV. Follow us at GlacierTV. Follow myself at Will Vincent. And Ramstein, very slow there. 100 miles an hour down to turn number 1. I'm not sure, he might have got himself a penalty of sorts because he was just going very slowly there down past start-finish straight. And I've no idea what's happened to him, but it looks like he has lost the position now to William Levesque. So he's now down to 5th, 4th in class.
Yeah, William Levesque made 2 positions there in the space of a lap. He's went from 5th to 3rd. So a very profitable lap for him, but I think it does look like a slowdown for Maxime Ramstein, unfortunately.
So we'll run through your top 5 in each class once again, as we've got 25 minutes off this race, pretty much scored complete. Jens is your leader. He has done 20 laps about to start, lap number 21. Enzo Benito second in LMP, and then it's Tommaso Carla in 3rd, Matt back and forth, Andre Borch rounds out your top 5. In GT1, Understyle leads away from Maxime Ramstein, the gap on the racetrack back up to 1.7 seconds. Jahai Lotti in 3rd, William Levesque in 4th, Blake Town then round out your top 5 there. And it looks as though actually Maxime Ramstein has just lost another position, this time to Blake Townend. So there are some issues right now for Maxime Ramstein in the 888 machine. And Rooks Tequila leads away in GT1 with Oliver Brandt second, Phil Diaz 3rd, Mike Thusen in 4th, and Craig Hunter rounds out your top 5. And a warning there for the number 33 machine. Now that is Tommaso Carla, and that is for an unjustifiable risk. And that is coming down into the S's on lap number 17, Scott.
Yeah, that was the contact, of course, with his teammate, I believe. So that was good. That was the risky part we had. Risky bit of contact we saw earlier on with, I think, with the Blake Townend Corvette. So that's going to be pretty tricky. So you have to watch himself for the future for the rest of the race. But Carl himself is now coming under real pressure from Matt Backham into the chicane. He's got the number 16 LMP2 all over the back of his head now, down towards to start another lap. Start lap 22. And actually now, it's interesting because Carl is now pulling away. So either Backham's had a bit of a slowdown penalty or whatever, or just the fact that Carl got a great exit out of the chicane. But Backham was right on his gearbox, and now he's dropped back quite a bit.
Indeed, and again, traffic comes into play quite often, so sometimes drivers fall back about 2 or 3 seconds in one lap, but then a little bit later it can change around. But there's a change in GT1 because Jahai Lotti is now to the point in the number 765 machine. Anders Dahl is running in the 2nd position, just 2.1 seconds back, but William Levesque as well is all over the rear. And this is in the battle for the GT1 second position. Arne Styles fallen down. He's 2.9 seconds back behind the 765 car, and Levesque is right there. And of course, Levesque, he qualified pretty badly in this race, Dan. He only qualified in the 5th position, got a slow start, but since then, he's been moving his way forward, and there's still a lot to come from this number 44 car.
Yeah, number 44 car, William Levesque, definitely a lot more to come from him. He's he's not been in iRacing too long. It's been just about a year, but he's certainly starting to make a reputation for himself now, and he's doing very well to be the moment to be where he is in his class. And I think we could see Levesque, maybe as him and Nandesdal and Natari have a big fight for the lead.
And it's all kind of shrunk itself together. And this is what we normally expect to have happen in these races, Randy. You'll see the cars split themselves out. You know, you'll have a lot of time difference in this first run before pit stops. And then the field will slowly bring itself together. Pit stops will shake it up again, and then it'll come back together again. So, you know, we're into now the second phase of the race where people's tyres are starting to go off a little bit. People starting to get a little bit frustrated, having to push. But Levesque has got a good run again because the LMP2 car almost bringing it back onto the racetrack. And Understyle just having to be able to get past. That was Shannon
And then another
Bennett there.
GT1 spinning in the back.
And that's a 23 machine of Julian Aligo also spinning there. I tell you what, it was pretty close there with Bennett. You get onto the grass, it's so difficult to then slow the car to stop it coming back onto the racetrack. I understand was able to take a voice of action, but William Levesque lost about a second in the process there. He had to really take a base of action, dabbing onto the brakes, coming into probably the second fastest part of the racetrack.
Yeah, that corner where he had to lift, the corner that is flat out in the GT card. And he's, of course, losing that little bit of time is frustrating. He didn't want to, I'm sure, compared to ending his race completely. He'll take a little bit of a time loss.
And you talk about moments in the race where you just have to breathe and move on. Scott, that was one of them right there for Levesque, and also perhaps for Anderstad as well.
Oh, tell me about it. That was such a instant, but of course we're lucky both cars are still going. But as I said, we're about just over half an hour into this 2.5 hour race. There's still a long way to go. So I think one factor that's going to play is definitely fatigue. These guys have to, even though it is sim racing, you know, you're kind of in one position for 2.5 hours. You're going to break when you get into pit stop, but still you get a chance to kind of readjust yourself. But these guys are going to have to really work it. And these guys who not physically but mentally at least have got that endurance, you know, etched into them that they can last 2.5 hours and mental fatigue doesn't set in. They're the ones that will have the edge over some guys who maybe don't have that and haven't raced too much endurance racing. Maybe like the guys such as in the LMPs, like Enzo Benito, maybe like Bootaloop, Andre Butcher. Those guys are only used to kind of racing in the iRacing WCS. And it's great to see those guys who've now had their season finish come into such a series like the Neo Endurance Championship to have a play in these kind of race cars that don't usually race because they're normally in the Williams F1 car.
And of course for Benito as well, Dan, he did a lot of racing in the race department STC Championship, but that was in a different car. And now he's made that transition from one of the slower GT cars up into the high downforce LMP car. Now, of course, racing in that high downforce Williams throughout the WCS season, he's had that chance, you know, of getting the speed there, but also he's had the chance of doing GT racing and navigating traffic, as also getting word that Roger Cronin is out of the race.
Yeah, Enzo Benito is a little bit of a jack of all trades on the roadside. He's just as comfortable in the GT as in the Formula 1, as we saw in the STC Cup. He dominated some of the races and really put an impressive performance in, and he's just showing that he can do both. And I do think there may be the time difference between the two, because obviously WCS about an hour and a half. Don't forget, in the STC races were quite 2.5 hours, but I think Enzo Benito will be able to put up, will be able to cope with it.
So we're past the first half an hour, only 2 hours left to go in this race. We're going to check in on the battle in GT2. This is the battle for third position on the racetrack right now, and it is between Phil Diaz and Mike Knudsen, the number 98 and 89 cars respectively. And last time by, they're pretty much evenly separated, but Knudsen gets a good run out of turn one. He's going to try and make the pass contact on the turnaround.
Again, Ahmed John is the one who, yeah, that'll be a penalty for sure. That's not really a corner you want to pass in at all. Too tight, too blind, but Ahmed Yaman is probably going to be pretty happy with that. He just picked himself up 2 free positions on a
By the way,
bad decision there.
did Marty Reed, that was actually Craig Hunter and Vanusen, not Phil Diaz and Vanusen, that came together. But we'll get the replays up on your screen, and you see that actually Vanusen gets a much better drive out of turn 1. He's able to move his car to the right-hand side. Next corner is a left-hander before you break it down into turn 3. The issue is, actually, once he got on the brakes, Scott, his car just didn't want to slow down properly. He got sideways, couldn't slow down, locked the brake up, and that is what caused the contact there. He was never going to make the corner. He tried to make a risky move. It didn't work for him, and he's going again on the racetrack. He's a lot slower, but surely that'll be a penalty for the number 98 car.
Yeah, and the unfortunate party, of course, was Craig Hunter. Of course, he had no part. In fact, he just sat there minding his own business, and all of a sudden he's got a flying blue and white Ford GT up his inside, and all of a sudden he's off the track. So it's rather unfortunate, I think, if he's not careful, because you can see Hunter's now closing in once again. So if Tunisian is now carrying damage because of that, then of course then Hunter will just reel him in and should make a pass at some point in the next couple of laps. So that could be a wounded Ford GT in the number 98 car, and I'm pretty sure Hunter will take advantage of that if he can.
Kevin Parrish, by the way, is out of the race in the number 69 car. He was running in the GT1 car. He qualified about mid-pack, but the 69 car out of the race. That's pretty disappointing because, you know, he's always been very good in this type of race. Dan, we've seen him a number of times before in that Corvette. Just didn't work out for him today.
No, we've seen him win races before in this class, but unfortunately for Kevin Parrish, it's over very early. He'd be very disappointed with that, but no doubt we'll see him bounce back in future races and be at the front as we've seen him before.
So, we'll very quickly just run through your top guys in each class once again, as we are now past the first half hour of the race. Jens from Benito, from Cardiff, and back in from Booterloo. They're your top 5 in the LMP class. In GT1, it's Lahati from Dalton, Levesque from Townend, from Ramstein. GT2, it's Tequila from Brandt, from Diaz, from Yamin, from Vanusen. And Levite has actually just been able to move himself up into second position. Anders Dahl falls then to the third position. It looks as though that something has happened to Anders Dahl. He just went off in the S's there, Randy.
Yeah, Dahl is, normally he's one of those people in the Corvettes or in the Cadillacs that are just, you know, picture perfect, doesn't really make mistakes, but this race he's been making a lot of little mistakes that are costing him a lot of time. He's putting a tire off here or there, and he ends up spinning or going way off. Just uncharacteristic Anders Dahl, to be honest.
And it's the sort of thing, you know, that Dahl, of course, he qualified for this race here today in pole position in that 03 car. Now, he probably expected to have a bit of a drive away. He did that for like first, didn't he, Scott? For like the first 15-20 minutes before he got himself into issues and fell down the order. Do you think perhaps the fact that ever since he's had to work through traffic, his car is not handling the same way?
I think his car probably does perform better in clear air. Obviously, there are certain things, we've seen it in some cases, like with the iRace and WCS, where we've had things such as you know, obviously seeing iRace WCS, some cars are more set up for running in straight and clear air. Some cars are better running in dirty air with traffic. And I think Dahl is probably the former. When his car doesn't like getting stuck in traffic and where he's not able to run in clean air. So it's probably the reason why he's doing that. He has got some clear air now because he's dropped behind Blake Townend, and he has got Maxime Ramstein in that 888 car following him in P5. So maybe because he Dahl push on here, maybe he's struggling a little bit with the setup or the tyres possibly, but whether or not he'll be able to pull it back, he's still got plenty of time, still about an hour and 50 minutes left to go, so he's still got plenty of time to try and make that up.
But to give a shout out to the sponsor of the Neo Endurance Series, Petit Le Mans, that is Fanatec. Fanatec, sponsor of the Neo Endurance Series, Petit Le Mans. And let's not forget as well, Randy, we've not just got the class victories here as well, we've got things like the Kleenex Award as well. The Neo guys, they do a good job of really bringing all the drivers into play and also the fans as well.
Yeah, you got things like the Kleenex Award, like you mentioned, which is basically where the driver the least amount of incidents, least amount of off tracks over the course of the race. I believe it's a $5 prize, and that's given out to all the classes. That's whoever in the entire field gets the least incident gets that, and that's a pretty hard thing to go for on a track like this.
So now the leaders in the LMP class, they are now working themselves onto lap number 31 in this race. And let's not forget as well, we are about 15 minutes away from the first round of pit stops here. And a couple of these guys, I'm thinking, will probably want to make some small changes to their cars on pit stops. Of course, the LMP cars will have a few more options than the GT1 and the GT2, but tyre pressure changes perhaps. You might see a couple of guys trying to play about with their downforce levels if they can enforce do so. But it looks as though that Jorn Jens made a bit of a mistake recently, Scott, because now that lead, it's down to about 1 second on the racetrack as Matt Backham has to go past a slow Tommaso Carla. Carla there, it's lost a lot of time and a lot of positions by the look of it. Something has happened to Tommaso Carla.
Yeah, well, actually looking at it now, the gap's back up to 5 seconds. So Jorn Jens has got that comfortable gap now, so it might have been a timing glitch, but I'm not sure. But Benito now trying to work his way through a slower P2 car, I think, because that's not showing as in the lead at all. So Benito will try and get his mate to the inside, and Tommaso Carlo, of course, is way back in P3, so he's now caught in traffic. He's back. He's behind now, Mac Backham. So of course, Tommaso Carlo's really dropped back, so he's now down to 6th. So that's now going to see how that one works out. But of course, Enzo Benito has managed to clear that lap traffic in second. One of the slower P2 cars. I'm trying to work out who that is. I think that's Vincenzo Amico, the 49, so he's down in P9. So Lee is already working their way through the top 10 overall in the race. So it just shows incredibly how fast the faster guys. Oh, contact! Huge contact. Yes, and that was between Enzo Benito and is also, I think, possibly was that Yari Latari. Was Yari Latari?
Yeah, it was.
The second in P2 and the class leader in GT1 come together, and I don't know. Look at the replay.
Benito. Yeah, that was all on Benito.
Yeah, all
on Benito. I mean, we'll slow it down. And the rule is very simple in iRacing and also for this series. It is the responsibility of the passing car to make a clean, successful pass. Now, for Benito, what he was trying to do, he indicated that he was going to go to the right-hand side in turn 3, but he was not even, as they came into the braking zone, he wasn't even alongside. And if you have a look, even if Benito had actually slowed that car down, he would have cut the curb of that corner, and there was absolutely no way that he'd been able to make it. So that was all on Enzo Benito there in the 05 car, and what that does is it puts him down positions. We have no idea how much damage there is to his race car. It looks as though he has pulled off and he is out of the race. Just having a look. Yeah, indeed.
Someone else pulling off.
No, he's carrying on, by the way. Enzo Benito is carrying on. But we've got a car, and that is Vincenzo Amico. And he is blowing all forms of fumes out of his race car. He's going to have to try and get that service on pit road, Dan.
Yeah, Vincenzo Amico with a bit of a engine blowout, but unbeknownst, well, it's all been a bit quietly, but our co-commentator Rob Cuss up into 8th position. I think Rob be quite happy with that.
Yep, Rob Cuss, not in the booth here today. He's actually racing in his Radical car. And they say he's up into 8th position in class for the time being. A lot of racing left to go, however. Only 40 minutes of this race scored complete. As far as pit stops go, however, it's a very short pit road here, which is a bit advantageous for these drivers. However, the last thing you're going to want to do is have a GT car coming out of the pits or into the pits ahead of you, Randy, because the braking distances, if you're in an LMP car, you can brake twice as late as the GT1s, probably a little bit more on the GT2 cars, and coming out of pit road, you can get on the gas a lot quicker and a lot harder, as Marcus May are going very wide there coming out of turn 5.
Yeah, these are probably some of the scariest pit entrances and pit exits you'll ever see or ever want to see racing. The pit entrance coming over that blind hill, and then on that pit exit, you're coming on right next to the racing line, and some people will cross that that pit lane exit line to run their wide up in turn 2 and 3.
Just getting an update, by the way. Lottery didn't get any damage. It was thankfully only a couple of scrapes, no real damage. And he is right now still leading the way in the GT1 car. There's a lot of traffic ahead of him right now. You see cars dancing in and out all over the place, working through turn 6 and 7. And this is around the David Grunhill, Oliver Brandt, Andre Borcher, Matt Backham, some Messo Carla. Carla is actually going to try and make the pass on Matt Backham. He didn't get the drive he needed, however, out of turn number 7. Still very close behind Marva as they work themselves down towards the chicane. Once again, Carla is on the inside. He won't get the draft, however. And again, this field's really come together. Borchert in third is about 1 second ahead on Mac Backham. Carla is only about 0.3 of a second further back. Carla looked down to the inside, wasn't able to complete the pass, however, there, Dan. And very close. And traffic for these guys, this close to pit stops, you want to come in with that advantage, just because mentally and psychologically, it sets you up better for the next stint.
Yes, that's also, as you said before, the traffic management. With one of the LMP drivers makes a mistake, the other one will be able to try and take advantage, and they're running so close together though, so if one of them makes a mistake, you could see 2 or 3 of them get involved in the same incident. And you said about the incident with Enzo Benito, he's now in the pits taking a black flag penalty, but I think he also had some damage. He's looked rather slow on the lap before.
By the way, live timing for this race is available if you head over to live.neo-endurance.com. That is live.neo-endurance.com. You can see a live ticket and the live leaderboard for all of the classes there, including the guys who are out of the race, their last lap, fastest lap, and sector intervals as well. I've got a feeling, I'm going to turn our attention back into this GT2 battle very quickly, because Root Tequila now, he is 7 seconds ahead of Oliver Brandt, and we were saying off camera that Tequila, this is his race to win right now. He's not pulled away as much as we expected him to in that number 36 car, Scott. And Oliver Brandt is keeping him honest. And his last lap time was quite a bit slow. Of course, a lot of traffic coming to play there for the 37 car of Oliver Brandt. But still, Tequila is not running away with this just yet.
No, I think it's a good job that Brandt's keeping him honest. Of course, it means that he's got something to work for. And of course, Brandt's trying to go through. But Brandt himself's got to keep these mirrors as well, because he's also got Philip Diaz, that number 9 machine, chasing after him. He's got some traffic. He's got the Blake Town in Corvette, and also that's one of the P2 cars, and I believe that's the one of the ones number lower in the, but that's the Shamar Bennett car on the number 8 through 5. He's had some problems in and out of the pit lane today, so let them both through. And now he's also going to let through another one of the Corvettes, and that's going to be, that's the thing which is behind, which is the Anders Dahl car. He's now trying to make his way through as well. But the GT2 guys, of course, they're doing well in traffic, I think, but I think hopefully, looking at it, there's fingers crossed that possibly Brandt can try and take the fight to Tequila, because right now Rupert seems as though he's got it all under control. He's having to vet of course, those guys through, like William the Vet through in a second, and the Vet needs to get Austin quickly, because of course he's chasing down for that GT1 lead, and I think the pace is going, you might just get it.
I'm going to turn
since we're talking about GT2, Craig Hunter, we haven't really talked about him. He's running a bit farther down on the Ford field. He almost ended his race at the turn 5 in the S's. He went way wide, nearly hit the wall on the outside.
Yeah, and
ended
he's on
up losing
pit
a
road.
spot to Jonathan Fuller. I don't know if he actually hit the wall, but
He's on pit road, however, so he's making his first pit stop of the day. However, Matt Backham, Tommaso Carlo, they are carrying on their battle, and those 3 LMP cars now are separated by just about a second on the racetrack. It is Backham third, Carlo in 4th, and then Borchert in the 5th position. There is a vet, which is going to make life interesting a little bit there for Matt Backham. He does just move out the way at the best time. I believe that's Luke Manzar in the Alpine Machines car. Getting confirmation, yes, it was. And Borchert is the one who's going to get held up all the way through 6 and 7. And Borchert loses 1 point. He loses a second there in just one corner, Scott.
Incredible what kind of effect traffic can have. Of course, he'll get some of that back if he's in the slipstream of the Farouk Manzar Corvette. He'll pull to the inside of it down towards the braking zone for turns 10A and 10B. Of course, that's the small chicane at the bottom of the hill. And intriguing enough, there wasn't actually originally in the circuit. I remember they installed that chicane. If I can bring up my information, that was back in around 1997. I think they brought that chicane into. Let's have a look. Yes, it was back November 1996 when the track was purchased by Don Paynos. Of course, that was back when he started conceiving, of course, the American Le Mans series as it is right now. Well, it's no more, in fact, because it's now gone to the United Sports Car Championship. So all Backham's across the grass.
Borchert also went on the grass there as well, and a cone flicked out onto the racetrack. That will really give Carlo a chance to make a run. Again, there is slower GT traffic, which just about moves out of the way. Let's see whether Carlo can get a run as they come down into turn number 6. He's going to have to go the long way around. We haven't seen cars pass on the outside, however. Carlo goes offensive. He tries to make the pass. He won't get it. If he can now just tuck him behind, he has to get late onto the gas, however. And actually, if he stayed on the outside line, he might have just been able to get the run down into the chicane. He is still close. doing 155 up to 160 miles an hour now, and you see already back him going defensive. Carla's going to have to go around the outside if he's going to complete this pass. Down the hill they come into the braking zone. Right now it's advantage Carla. If he can make the left hand work, he does. The right hand works for him. Back him comes back alongside, however, and maintains that position.
Look at Butcher.
And just like that, Butcher is back in it.
And he's right there, and the gap again, the 3 cars separated by 0.5 of a second. And every time Backham and Carla go side by side, Borcher's just looking his drops, because the 2 drivers are going slower, you naturally do, when 2 cars try and fit into 1 gap, and Borcher then closed that gap by a second in that lap. But for Carla there, it was just into that chicane. He got the first part of it right, Dan, and then it was the second part of the chicane where he really lost that momentum as he just touched the grass.
Yeah, he seemed to go a little bit loose, and that just allowed a chance maybe for Andre Bocher to get past him, but he didn't take it. But now Backham's gone a bit wide onto the grass, and Tommaso Carla down the inside. So Tommaso Carla has gone past Mark Backham and into 3rd place. Now Andre Bocher will have the chance maybe if he can get behind him close enough for a slipstream to try and set up a move coming down at the end of the straight.
And again, those 3 cars are very closely separated, but now it is advantage Carla. Borcher's a little bit too far back. Backham won't make it past that deep this early in the race. And we are now about at that 45-minute marker, Randy, where the first 45 minutes of this race are going to be scored complete very soon. That means we are now in that pit stop window. Pit road might become a very busy place soon. And if you see a lot of traffic ahead of you, you might want to come onto pit road a lap, maybe 2 laps earlier, just because you'll get the undercut and you won't have to deal with that traffic just then.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes the biggest part of pit strategy is just being able to get yourself out on a clear racetrack. I'd expect pit road to get filled with Fords pretty quick here. Generally, my numbers that I did before the race, the Ford can run about 50 minutes on a full tank. And if some of these guys, maybe they're undercutting their fuel just a little bit, they might come in a little sooner. Kind of depends what we're going to see here, but we're definitely going to have a very, very, very busy pit lane here shortly.
And we're getting word that some of these drivers are going to try and eke it out on a 2-stop strategy. Some of the guys will try and do 3 stops. And the Corvette guys are probably going to be the only ones that will be able to do it on the 2 stops. Everyone else probably will be doing a 3-stop strategy. But Latari, by the way, he has been able to eke out a bit of a gap. It's now 1.6 seconds between himself and William Levesque, as they are completing their 38th lap of the race anytime soon. Blake Townend in 3rd position though. He's 5.8 seconds behind Levesque right now. And Anders Dahl, you talked earlier on about how he was starting to lose time, Scott. He really is struggling in that 03 car right now.
Doesn't seem content, does he? He's back in P4. He's got a nice big gap to Julian Aligo behind in P5. Of course, he's just got by some GT2 traffic. But Dahl, of course, he was quickest in pre-qualifying. He was quickest in the qualifying sessions to take pole for the GT1 class. And now he seems to have just dropped off the pace mysteriously. That 03 car not working to Anders Dahl's liking right now. But I have to say, looking back at William Levesque, he has actually managed to close in a lot now. And I've seen William Levesque race on a number of occasions. Not in iRacing, I say, but he's done mainly touring car racing. He's been very, very quick. He's won a couple of championships as well. And what's been amazing with Levesque is the fact that he's taken to this Corvette in iRacing like a duck to water. He's come straight in. I think at one point he even held, as to show how quick he was, I think he even held the world record for that time of a Corvette around Laguna Seca. So that's just how quick he is. He's been winning regularly and up in the top 5 in terms of races in Corvette. So this guy definitely is one of the, I'd say, definitely boldly say, one of the world's best Corvette racers on iRacing, and he's doing a great job to hold his 2nd place and challenge for the lead.
So, we are now 45 minutes. Just don't get it sideways there out of turn number 7. His car really isn't handling the way he wants it to. To give you an update, by the way, Oliver Brandt is now actually going faster lap on lap than Rupert Tequila. He's done it for the last 2 laps or so. That gap is now down to about 5.9 seconds on the racetrack. And this is very interesting, Randy, because Brandt, of course, is a very accomplished driver. In fact, the first races I commentated on GlacierTV, the Talk Freak Racing Supercar, you know, Brandt was running in GT1 and the GT2 car. They're pretty dominant at some point in the GT1 car. He is a dab hand in the GT2 car as well. And even though we expected Tequila to drive away, Brandt is still pushing it.
Yeah, definitely. Oliver, like you said, is a very, very good driver, and the thing about Oliver is that he drives a lot of cars very well. I've seen him run fast in the Star Mazda, and as Brand is pulling off into the pit lane right now, we'll see if Philip Diaz stayed out, might be looking to undercut it. Rupi is probably going to stay out, and he's probably going to be able to get a bit more fuel economy, as is tradition for Mr. Turkula.
Jeremy Boutaloop also on pit road, as is Anders Dahl, as is your leader in the LMP class, your overall leader, Jorn Jens, pits from the lead. So now he is going to give up that lead for the time being. Boutaloop on pit road, and Carla now brings his car onto pit road, as does Mac Backham and Andre Borcher. So the top 5 in the LMP cars are now on pit road. Jorn Jens pulling his car out and away. He will stay in the race lead, and a good overall pit stop there for Jorn Jens in that number 64 car.
Certainly was, and he's managed to get himself nice and clear. Well, there's a bit of traffic as well on the exit. That's the Shamar Bennett number 825 car, and he's running very slowly. In fact, he's obviously had an off somewhere trying to get back to speed. He's been in trouble all day so far, so he's lucky still to be running in P10. He's got the Corvette behind, I believe that's the 58 Farouk Manzar Corvette. It is. So he's just staying just ahead right now, but let's see exactly how these guys are getting out on pit road. Boutaloop has got back out in P2. Carla he's lost place, I think, in the pit stops. He really has. He's back out, I think, behind Andre Butcher. He is out behind Andre Butcher, and he's also Rob Cuss is out there. Of course, he hasn't pitted just yet, and also I think David Gruniel is in there as well. So, no, he's not. That's a different car I'm looking at. So looks as though at the moment that Carla has lost out to Andre Butcher, to majorly in fact to Andre Butcher. He's lost the place. As for Mac Backham, Mac Backham's lost out too as well. He's dropped behind. But that's an incredible jump from Andre Butcher. He's dropped 2 spots in the pit stops from 5th to 3rd. Great pit work from his pit crew there.
We're having a look at pit times. Jorn Jens, 31.6 seconds. These are all box times, by the way. Jeremy Boutaloop, 31 seconds. Carla, 34.4 seconds. Mac Backham, 35.2. Andre Borcher at 29.4. So Borcher was the quickest by far there in his box. And of course, some of these guys might be playing it straight strategically, get themselves in track position. Short field now, but they'll have to take a little bit more fuel later on in the race, Dan.
Yeah, that's the thing though. But at the moment, Bocher deciding he wants to try and get a bit more position, try and get a bit of clean air. But
oh, sorry, Matt Backham's off. Matt Backham's off. This is down in turn number 1, and he's going to lose himself some time there. Carry on.
Yeah, he's going to lose some time. But Andre Bocher, with him being in the position he's in at the moment, maybe he thought he just wants to try and control his race a bit. He doesn't want to be stuck behind Carla and Backham. If he feels he can go a little bit faster and determine his own race as such, then that's probably the way he's going to go. And it looks like that's the decision he made.
So Mac Backham is off, and it's not the first time we've seen it happen today to Mac Backham. However, he's back onto the racetrack, and just trying to figure out where he is circulating right now. He is now running in the 5th position. He hasn't lost a spot, but he's lost a lot of time to Tommaso Carla. But meanwhile, William Levesque has been able to take away the GT1 race lead on that first sequence of pit stops, Randy. So a new GT1 leader, and it's a guy who's been charging through the field, that number 44 INX racing car of William Levesque.
Yeah, he's one of the only Corvette drivers that I think have really looked comfortable the way they're driving. I mean, Anders has made some mistakes. We've seen Yari have a couple moments in a half spin, as well as an incident with a HPD earlier. He just seems to be the only one that's really been able to get into a rhythm and be able to really push and find time. And I mean, found himself in the lead now because of it.
And we'll get ourselves a look at the pit times on that in just one moment. But it looks as though it's all on the in-lap there, Scott, for William Levesque. And I'm having a look at their lap times now. And it was a 1 minute 21 in-lap there for William Levesque. You want to compare that, of course, to the guys around him, and much, much faster.
Well, William Levesque can pull out a hot lap when he needs to, and he certainly has done that right now. That was a 2 minutes 8.001 outlap there from William Levesque. And looking at Yari Latari's outlap, if I can look at his laps as he's come through.
His in-lap was the important bit. It was 2 seconds slower on the in-lap. He did a 1 minute 23.2.
Yes,
even though Latari was 1.6 seconds faster on the actual pit stop itself.
But his outlap was very similar. I think he was only about a couple of tenths off on his outlap. But of course, you know, that's him trying to get the tyres up to temperature. But he's got incentive now because, of course, he can chase after Levesque. Levesque's just got past some traffic. But effectively now it's roles reversed. Effectively the hunter has become the hunted. Levesque has now got to be watching his road because he's have to see exactly where Latari is and whether or not Latari can actually keep pace with him. Now they're both on a fresh set of tyres. Of course, Latari's have had a lap to warm up, whereas just seeing Levesque, of course, have only just come out of the pits and they're just coming up to temperature probably right now. So it's all going to be who's got the better race pace. But I think overall, over the longer distances, I think Levesque is a little bit stronger on the longer runs compared to over a single lap, it seems.
It is, and this is going to be a fascinating battle now in the GT1 race lead. The gap is 1.9 seconds on the racetrack. We'll get a good indication of what their times are. Now they're both up to speed as they come past the stripe once again. For William Levesque, it was a 1 minute 16.847, a 1 minute 17.1 there for Latari, so losing 3 tenths of a second. Of course, though, we're going to have to see in the next couple of laps to see whether or not that calms down or not. And you make a good point there, Andy. The man to watch from this stint really is Anders Dahl. We're not sure if he sustained any damage or whether he flat spotted a tyre or something in that first stint. But now he's had a pit stop under his belt. He might be able to make some changes to his race car. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get himself back into contention. That's me talking to you there, Randy. Okay, I'll talk to someone else. But Anders Dahl, overall, really, this is that part of the race. Anyone where, you know, if he can get back into the groove, it's got to be on this stint. He's got to really start pushing now. You have a look at him. He is currently circulating in the 4th position in his class. He is 0.9 seconds behind Blake Townend in the number 57 Radical car. Townend last time by was a little bit faster there than Anders Dahl, but of course traffic will come into play again because Townend's got a GT2 car between them right now. And I'm just having a look. Anders Dahl's lap times are nowhere near comparable still to your race leaders, but got still a long way to go. And if anyone can really get back into the groove, it is going to be Anders Dahl.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, he didn't get pole position for nothing. Of course, it counts for something at least. The fact that he was over a single lap, he was the quickest. But of course, now he's having to pick his way through traffic. Of course, he's having to let an LMP1 car through at the same time he's trying to get around a GT2 car. So he's having to just trying to work his way, trying to get himself back into the groove. Now the pit stops are over and we're into the second part of the race. So Dahl now has to try and his focus now is got to be at least to start off, of course, to try and get back to third place. Now, of course, what could be an advantage here is, of course, well, obviously it's an advantage, but the LMP has just got past. But any traffic, any advantage you can gain will probably come from the fact that Tanner will come up on traffic first, but not as the LMP2 cars trying to come past or the GT2 cars getting in their way. And Dahl has to try and take advantage of that whenever he can. If Tanner makes one mistake, whether lifting off too much to let one of the faster prototypes past, or he gets stuck behind a GT2 car, he has to pounce on that quickly, because if he doesn't, he'll lose out on that, and that'll hurt him later on in the race if he doesn't take the chances now.
We've got a car off, by the way, and that was off the final corner. That was Mike Vanusen in the number 98 car. He is crashed at the final corner in his GT2 car. However, William Levesque last time by at 1 minute 15.8. In fact, this is 2 laps ago now. And he really is now just eat that gap out to Latari, but up to 5.5 seconds on the racetrack. That was a blisteringly quick lap there by Levesque. 1 minute 15.850. And that is the, in fact, it is now the fastest lap of the race we have seen by at least a 10.5 of a second, Randy.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think Levesque is, he almost spun in turn 6, as I was saying. He might be the only one in GT1 that's really actually comfortable in his car, but I don't know, it's hard to say. Levesque definitely has pace, but Jari, Blake, and Andrew, they're all people that are very, very fast in GT1. It's not really sure what's going on. To be honest, it's kind of weird to see someone running away with it as much as William is working on.
But what blistering pace. We're going to turn our attention away from GT1 very quickly and have a look back at this battle, which is probably now all the way from about 2nd down to 5th in LMP. Jeremy Boutroup is running in the 2nd position. However, he's got a 16.4 second gap over Tommaso Carla. Andre Borcha running in the 4th position, 2.6 back from Carla. And then Matt Backham a further 1.3 seconds back. Now, Backham last time by was 4 tenths slower than Andre Borcha as they come past the stripe once again. That was a quick lap by Borcha, 1 minute 11.998. Backham again about a second slower. The traffic is not working out for Matt Backham in that 16 car right now. But Andre Borcha, best one's a little bit wide. He's able to slow it down. And we've seen this quite a lot now, Dan. A lot of the LMP cars having to make big moves into turn 3. Of course, if you don't complete the pass and slow the traffic into turn 3, you're stuck behind them through turn 4, through the S's, and then your next chance to pass them really is coming out of turn 5.
Yeah, I can see seeing some unjustifiable risks being taken early in the race and penalties, and I think that's maybe the corner where that happened, because you know you're going to lose a lot of time. You're stuck behind a slower car just going for that S's section, but Anders Dahl next has gone past Blake Townend as well, as I saw as the LMP leaders came through. So Anders Dahl, we said before, he's a man on this stint to watch out for. He's made his first position up, he's now up to a 3rd place in class.
So, and this is interesting. Anders Dahl is moving back onto move. Having a look at his lap times as well. Last lap, 1:17.0. That last lap, he was 4 times faster than Jari Lottari, and he was about a second slower than William Levesque. And Levesque really just pulling away at this stage of the race. We'll run through your top 5 in each class. Johan Jens, your leader in LMP, with Jeremy Bootaloop in 2nd, Tommaso Carla in 3rd, Andre Borcher in 4th, Matt Backham rounds out your top 5. Your retirees in the LMP, you've got Simon Cattell out of the race, Roderick Cronin out, Fabio Gonzalez out, Enzo Benito out of the race, and you've got one car scored 2 laps down, that is Shamar Bennett. In GT1, it is William Levesque leading by 6.9 seconds over Harry Lotte, Anders Dahl 3rd, Blake Townend 4th, and Maximilian Ramstein in the 5th position. Just a couple of retirees. It's Timo Vorsic and Kevin Parrish out in GT1. And in GT2, Rup Tequila leads by 8.4 seconds over Oliver Bram. Philip Diaz is in 3rd position, Ahmed Yamin in 4th, and then Craig Hunter rounds out your top 5. You've got Jan-Paul Nielis, Eric Verdorf, and Nick Stigi and Kazepa Volker Jr. all out of GT2. What should we talk about very quickly? We will talk about Anders Dahl, because we talked about the fact he needs to get back into the groove, Randy. He's kind of doing that. The gap is now down to 3.8 seconds between the 0-3 car and the 765 machine of Jari Lottari. And it looks as though at this stage of the race, it's now Lottari who's falling back just a little bit. Of course, traffic's not really gone his way in the last couple of laps, but Dahl is back to pushing it.
Yeah, Dahl just looks like maybe he made changes in that pit stop, or maybe just he ate his tires up early in that first stint with those early spins, but he's definitely getting back into the pace, and he's running about on pace with William Levesque actually right now. In fact, last lap he was a 10th faster than William Levesque was, so I mean we might be seeing Anders Dahl getting back into being a characteristic Anders Dahl and just putting down fast laps, being clean, and possibly getting up there.
And this is going to be an interesting battle. Of course, it's a long race here, and unlike, for example, a WCS race, which is just 90 minutes long, of course, you make one pit stop, there you are, it's pretty much done. In this race, you're going to see 2, maybe 3 pit stops for each of these drivers. And also, one of the things we've not yet talked about is the fact that this is a 2.5 hour long race. Now, Scott, most of these drivers are used to doing races that last anywhere between 1 hour and 90 minutes. And it might seem just a little bit silly saying, oh, they're only going an extra hour, it's no big deal. That final half an hour, especially, the muscle reflexes, you know, your body physically gets tired. Mentally, you start getting tired. And with all the emotions going on as well, it's one of the toughest races on a track like this with so little room for error to survive.
That is true. I mean, like, a good example, of course, is the guys who've come from the WCS, of course, into this kind of series. Of course, they're used to lapping, you know, slower cars, but effectively they're in the same car with them, car as they are. When you come into an endurance race with multiple classes, especially like compared to say like the last time we had the first round of the endurance series, of course, which is the Montreal 250, we had different classes of car. Granted, we had the the Radical and of course then the McLaren, but there was still a class of slower car they had to try and get around. Now the guys who have come back for this second race have now got 2 slower classes to go through. So, for example, the LMPs have got to get around Corvettes and 4 GTs, and those cars, of course, got both different speed. Have got 2 different the 3 classes got all speed differences across all 3 classes, of course. So there's that, and of course the extra hour, because you've got all that work of trying to see where cars are.
I'm going to interrupt you. We've got a crash at the chicane, and this is Jari Lottari, and this was, of course, the guy running in 2nd position, and coming down into the chicane. Replay's going to be up on your screen momentarily, and Lottari blew his engine up, and we've seen this happen a couple of times before. But Lotari coming down into chicane, just trying to shift that car down into gear a little bit too early. And his rear end says I'm sexy, and I'm not. Unfortunately, he's sexy, but he's out of the race now. The 765 car is out. And he's going to get a tow back towards pit road. He will see whether they can sort something out. But Lotari from second position out of the race. That gives P2 now to Anders Dahl. So Anders Dahl back into the second position in the GT1 car. However, he is 10.8 seconds behind William Levesque, and also lapping anywhere between half a second and a second slower on the racetrack. Andre Borcher, by the way, trying to go around the outside. He moves up into third position, passing Tommaso Carla, and that was down in chicane coming out the final corner. Now this time actually Carla was on the outside line again. Borcher was on the inside, wasn't able to get the job done immediately, but then coming out of the chicane, Carla has struggled on the inside of that second part of the chicane all race long. Borcher slinging down to the outside, and he moves himself up into third in the LMP class. We're going to step aside for a moment. We'll be right back for continuing coverage of the Neo Endurance Series. This is the Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans. Of the Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans here on GlacierTV. Will Vincent along with Dan Blake, Scott Woodward and Randall Shenworth as we are here at Road Atlanta, the 2.54 mile racetrack, 12 corners set in Georgia. Track temperature right now is dropped a couple of degrees down to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got a strong northerly wind of 20 miles an hour, however. Race humidity still at 49%. Let's give out a shout out to the sponsor of this race as well, Phonetic, for their supporting coverage of this race. Looking at this battle between Carla, Borcher and Backham, and it continues on the racetrack. Carla leads at the moment of these three cars. It's for P3, 4 and 5 on the racetrack, and Borcher's going to lose a bit more time there as well as he had to navigate some traffic coming out of turn number 1. But Matt Backham has come into play because for about 3 or 4 laps as Backham there gets a little bit bulked by Andre Borcher. For the last 3 or 4 laps, it was Carla versus Borcher going too wide all over the place as Backham goes sideways coming out of turn number 5. But Backham was getting back into this until I said that, and now he's 1.5 seconds back from this group again.
Yeah, Mac is really, really lucky to not lose the car there. I mean, he got real sideways, and that's a place where if you spin, it's right over.
But, as I say, Carla leads that group right now by 1.6 seconds on the racetrack. It grew due to the fact that Carla got lucky with the lap traffic, and now they're pretty much all separated by about 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. Just to let you know, by the way, we just have 6 cars scored on the lead lap. Now, that's not overly surprising, Scott. I mean, this is a long race. We are approaching half race distance in about 5 minutes' time. And, you know, it's a very short racetrack as well. I mean, we're doing laps of 1 minute 13. So, compared to a track like Spa, where you expect to see 20, maybe 25 cars finish on the lead lap, here, not going to happen.
I think it wouldn't be surprising if you end up seeing, you know, no cars, not all cars in the top 5 at least overall finish on the lead lap. I think we'll be very surprised if we actually get all of them on the top 5. That is the only, if it stays at just 6, if we don't get Jorn Jens lapping someone in the top 5 very soon. But of course, negotiating all this traffic is damn hard work for these guys, so respect to all these guys to try and get through it. I was actually looking at the battle for second in GT1 between Dahl and Townend. Actually now, Townend was right on the back of Dahl for second place, but that number 57 Corvette dropped back a little bit. Looking at lap times, Dahl was he was a full second quicker than Townend last time around, but I think that's due to the fact that I think Townend tried to get around some traffic and was letting one of the P2 cars through as well. So Townend just dropping through, but I think he might just be able to try and claw back. So Dahl seems to have got over whatever troubles he had in that first stint, and he's starting to claw back that pace, and now he's trying to create a gap and chase after William Levesque, who is just sailing away at the front, and with a nice healthy lead back to second place in that 03 car.
And also, we have had Oliver Brandt making his second pit stop of the day, so he now falls down into 4th position in class. And I'm wondering whether that was just a little bit of strategic there, trying to do a very short middle stint or something, because Oliver Brandt is one of the best strategists I know in GT racing. He's very calm, he knows exactly when to push it, exactly when to save a little bit of fuel, but it's a very odd strategy by the number 37 machine.
Yeah, that is really weird. In the Fords, he can run about 50 minutes on a tank here at Road Atlanta, and that's enough to make it on a 2-stopper in this 2.5-hour long race. But however, I think Oliver pitting as early as he did, I don't know if he'd be able to make it on 2 stops.
I'm not sure.
Very, very early.
Well, he's going to have to do at least one more pit stop in this race. So, we'll run through very quickly. We'll run through your classifications in each class. We'll run through all the drivers, starting first in LMP2. Jorn Jens right now leads by 18.4 seconds over Jeremy Bouteloup, who is running in second position. Tommaso Carla in third in that big battle with Andre Borcher and Mac Backham. They are 4th and 5th respectively. Andre Martins in 6th. Vincenzo Amico in 7th position. Rob Cuss in 8th. David Grinnell in 9th, and then Chalmar Bennett rounds out your top 10. Retirees, Enzo Benito, Fabio Gonzalez, Roger Cronin, and Simon Cattell. Over into GT1, William Levesque leads by a pretty sizable margin right now over Anders Dahl, Blake Tannen in 3rd, Maxim Ramstein in 4th, Julian Aligo in 5th, Joel Guiz in 6th, Kevin Beekman in 7th, Richard Struchman in 8th, Marcus Mayer in 9th, Farouk Manzar in 10th, Joey Rutzwick in the 11th position, Jahoe Lottery, Timo Versut and Kevin Parrish are out of the race. And then in GT2, Rup Tequila leads by 13.9 seconds now over Philip Diaz. Ahmed Yamin in 3rd, Oliver Brandt making 2 stops, he's now in 4th, Craig Hunter 5th, Jonathan Fuller in 6th, retirees Mike Knudsen, Kasey Volker Jr., Nick Vestige, Eric Verdorf and Jarl Polnelius. One of the things that stands out to me there, Dan, is that our biggest attrition is out of GT2.
Yeah, the Ford GT class, the slower cars, seem to have had the more trouble, it seems, in this race. With their Nihu's hard was a disconnection, that wasn't non-track issue, but yeah, as you said, we saw Denison have the contact data to Craig Hunter. I think that may have played a part in his retirement. Maybe there was a bit of damage there before it put him into the wall, but yeah, GT2 has definitely seen the most cars retire. We've only got 27 cars out of the 39 that started this race still running.
And don't forget the next race of the Neo Endurance Series coming your way at 6 PM GMT on the 17th of November, the 2.4 hours of Zolder. And once again, of course, that'll be right here on GlacierTV, the 2.4 hours of Zolder on the 17th of November. I'm going to turn my attention to Jorn Jens for the moment. We haven't talked about him for a good half an hour or so, but he really is dominating in that LMP class right now, Scott. He's dealt with the traffic perfectly today. He's just working himself through the traffic right now. I believe that is William the bike and then the 44 car. He's just going around the outside of. But overall, he's, been strong all race long, pulled away early, and Jeremy Bouteloup is a full 16 seconds back right now.
Intriguing, of course. Really, Jorn Jens is the better, of course, overall, it seems. So, of course, he's really just out there, just minding his own business, just keeping himself out of trouble, and just winding his way through that traffic as best he can. He's not taking too many risks, and I think that's kind of shown the fact he's been able to pick up a 16-second gap. Of course, he's playing a very strategic and very safe kind of race, that he knows he's quick enough to extend his gap over the likes of Bouteloup and Carla and Butcher and back and behind, who are scrapping amongst themselves. And it's because they're scrapping amongst themselves that he's able to try and pull away and extend that gap. So playing a very smart game here. He's taking advantage of, while the harder the guys behind fight each other, the easier it's going to be for Jens to make a break. So he's really taking advantage of that, and it's good to see. Quick side note, of course, the next round, of course, is Zolder. Significant day for me, because it's actually my birthday, but I don't think I'll be around to comment on that, because I'll be probably out celebrating in some way. But yeah, it's quite fitting that the next round is on my birthday, so just thought I'd point that out.
Oh, very nice. We're not going to give you any birthday messages, so we'll just move on from there, shall we?
No, I didn't expect it.
Yeah, you know me. Fruit Manzar, by the way, he's been involved in a pretty entertaining battle with Marcus Mayer the last couple of laps. The Alpine and Stars machine of Fruit Manzar. In fact, he's going to perhaps try and look down to the inside, down into turn number 6. Not quite going to be close enough there over the number 29 machine. And that 29 car, both of them, I expected both to really be kind of higher up in the field here today. Fruit Manzar, of course, dominating one season in the TFR Super Cup. But he's got a good run this time as they work themselves down the backstretch, down towards the chicane once again. And Manzar will look down to the inside, and this should be a pretty easy pass. And so long as he can slow it down. Yep. No, he can't. He goes very deep on the brakes there. He does complete that pass, but back down on the inside will come the 29 car, and it's going to be a drag race now down in turn 1. Manzar does get it. Marcus Mayer there thinking very, very wisely. Just let him have the position and live to fight another day. But I tell you what, that was pretty close there with Manzar, Dan, because had Mayer had been alongside, he would just run into him.
Yeah, it was quite risky. It needed a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? A bit of generosity from both drivers there in order for them to both make the corner. But in that class, Richard Schutteren has had to make an unscheduled pit stop. He had an issue with his connection blinking in and out, and race control spotted that and told him to come down pit lane until it was sorted. He managed to sort that pretty quickly, but he has lost some positions there. But he's back out on track now. That's a number 99 Corvette.
Indeed, yeah. And in GT2, by the way, it does seem as though that now Tequila is pulling away and driving away into the sunset. And we were talking about the fact that Oliver Brandt was keeping him honest a little bit earlier on, Randy, but all of a sudden it does seem to be that in the big scheme of things, there is no stopping Tequila. His gap over Philip Diaz is now up to 16 seconds on the racetrack. Diaz a full second slower that last time by. And if you have a look at the fastest laps, now Phil Diaz has been able to do a lap within a tenth of a second of Tequila, but over the long pace, there really has been no stopping that 36 car.
Yeah, Rupi is one of those people that can generally, that really is take the Ford GT right to the edge. But not only in speed, but fuel consumption as well. He's very, very good for driving really, really fast and using, less fuel. A couple seasons ago in the official series, we would see him run full races at 65-minute long stints, where most people would have to pit. So definitely not surprising to see how Rupi can just run away like that.
And I'm really impressed, by the way, in the same way that Borcher, we're going to turn our attention to Borcher right now, and this is in the LMP battle, and he is right on the rear to Tommaso Carlo. Of course, Matt Backham is right there as well. Guess what, guys? It is once again separated by less than a second between these three drivers. It is in third place, Tommaso Carlo, fourth place, Andre Borcher, fifth place, Matt Backham. And Backham's going to have a bit of a run now as they work themselves. He's going to move to the right-hand side immediately. He'll get a bit of a draft as well from Tommaso Carlo, who, of course, will take the optimum line down into the corner. That'll allow Backham to... Oh, look at this! He tries to make the move there. Does Borcher at the very last second on Tommaso Carlo. He wasn't able to do so. Matt Backham touched the grass a little bit, but he will stay alongside down in out of the final corner. The Maestro AD car just going a little bit wide there on corner exit. Backham will have the pass complete into turn number 1. Will he? No, he won't. And that was good driving there by Borcher on the outside into turn number 1.
Yeah, and Backham there lost a bit more time. He's a bit swiggly, but great driving there from Andre Borcher. They're caught behind the GT1 now, and that's going to allow Matt Backham to get all his time back again on the back of Andre Borcher.
Look at the way they stacked up there as it's wide. I believe that was a 29 car who had to just move out of the way coming out of turn number 5. Indeed, it was Marcus Mayer, and that 29 car, of course, was passed by Fruit Manzar a couple of laps ago. And also, because of the fact that Carla couldn't get onto the power as early as he wanted to, because of the fact that Fruit Manzar was ahead of him, that might have given the chance to Borcher. It didn't happen, however, and now This is going to be interesting because Borch is going to want to get past Manzar coming into the chicane. Indeed, he just will be able to do so. But Matt Backham will not be able to do so. And that will cost Matt Backham all the way up the hill because he won't really be able to get past until afterwards he goes sideways. He goes sideways again. And Backham's car is incredibly loose, Randy.
Yeah, he might be running a really low downforce set compared to a lot of these guys. Road Atlanta is generally a track you'll want the car to be a little bit trimmed out. So, but Mac is someone who drives very aggressively, and he does try to get his car to the edge as much as he can in terms of how loose it is. So, yeah, it's not surprising to see Mac, even after he makes these mistakes, he's able to just suck right back up to the back of Bocher and Carla.
And again, Backham all over the curbs there, out of turn number 5, in at number 16, Radical Steel Series car, launches off, down at turn 6 and 7, just running wide there. And again, we are getting closer now to that second round of pit stop. So again, these tyres might be starting to give up just a little bit. And we've seen this all race long, Scott. Those 3 cars separated by less than a second between them. Then they'll separate themselves out and there'll be about 2 seconds from 3rd to 4th and then from 4th to 5th. It's happened again. It's back up to 2.2 seconds gap between 4th and 5th. And it's about 2 seconds between 3rd and 4th.
They can't really seem to escape each other, can they? They seem to like each other too much, so they want to come on battling all the way to the end of the race. But it's a fantastic and intriguing battle to watch, and how it all seems to sort of spread out amongst each other. And then thanks to the traffic, they all seem to kind of just close back up again. So it's brilliant to see how it all develops. And this, I feel, will go all the way until the flag, of course, in the battle for the final podium spot. Because Bootleaf is some 5 seconds up the road, and Jorn Jens, well, he's got this zone up already. He's got about a 24-second lead. And they're just coasting away at the head. So effectively, the biggest battle in the P2 is, of course, this battle for 3rd, and hopefully it'll continue to enter the race, because it'll certainly provide some entertainment, because the rest of the class in P2, they're all kind of racing out there for themselves rather than racing for positions. So really, this is the only entertainment we're getting from the class at the moment, and the other biggest battle, probably the biggest battle on track right now as well, because there's not really much else going on in the race apart from possibly somewhere in the GT1 class.
Very quickly, we are going to have a little bit of a chat with Jahari Lotte. Lotte, unfortunately, your race over a lot earlier than you wanted it to be in that 765 car. Explain to us what happened.
Well, I'm stunned. It was a normal braking into T10, and the revs never went up to the yellow, and when kicked into 4th and bloom. Nothing else.
And of course, that's one of the things with these GT1 cars, compared, for example, to the GT3 McLaren machine, or perhaps the LMP car, where you shift down too early, the engine can blow very easy. You've not got that kind of shift early device. I don't exactly know what it's called, to be fair. But before that, you had some very good pace, especially in that first half of the race. How disappointing is it to be out this early, and are you looking to bounce back before we go to Zolder in 3 weeks' time?
Well, I have no idea if I'm going to be in Zolder race, but still, yeah, a few tears were shed after that. But the pace was good. I think William's going to take it, so congrats to him. Well, what can I say?
Well, unfortunate there for the 765 car. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, a big shout out to my good friend Mikko Niittymäki, who was working as my crew chief tonight, and well, everybody, the Neo Endurance community is quite nice, and well, everybody is just so nice people there, and thank you everybody.
765 car, unfortunately out very early. Jari Lotte out of the race, a blown engine, which happened earlier on in this race down into the chicane. Let's turn our attention back to Yamin, Brandt and Hunter in GT2, Randy, because they've all kind of closed up recently.
Yeah, they're all within. They're all within the length of chicane right now, and this is really the big. These are half the cars running in GT2 right now, currently. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this battle between 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
And
as Brian gets really loose out of 12, so he's going to give Hunter a chance to poke a nose into turn 1, but it looks like he thinks better of it, which is probably a good decision, to be honest.
Of course, Brandt pitted a lot earlier than all of these other cars. We've got 1 hour and 4 minutes left on the play clock, and I'm interested to see what the strategy is for the rest of these guys. Now, I'm having a look at the pit lap for Ahmed Yamin, for example. He came in originally on, lap 38? He's currently working on lap number 61, which means that realistically we expect to see him back on pit road about lap 75, which will bring him right into that window where if he can save a little bit of gas, he might not have to make a third pit stop. Oliver Brandt, however, he pretty much guaranteed that he is going to have to make a third pit stop. That really could hurt him, and he's probably out of the running now, definitely for the win, but possibly even for a podium.
Yeah, it's definitely a risky decision that he made there. That second early pit stop, I'm not really sure what happened. I don't know if maybe he got damaged early on that he wanted repaired, or if he had to make an early. I mean, it really is an interesting decision that Oliver had to do there with that pit stop. But looks like we got Oliver stretching the gap on Hunter again after that bit of a mistake, and he's closing up on Ahmed actually.
Julian Ligo, by the way, in GT1, he has just been able to get himself past Maxim Remstein in the 888 GoPro machine as they work themselves through turn number 6 and 7. Once again, Jorn Jens, the overall leader, is just about to put another lap on that 23 car as he's going to move himself to the right-hand side as they come down the back straight away once again. But let's turn our attention back to, guess what it is, P2, P3 in the LMP class. And we've got a fourth player now, and that is Jeremy Booterloop. Booterloop is, 30 seconds almost now behind Jorn Jens, and he's fallen into the clutches of that Carla Borcham-Backham battle.
Yeah, Tommaso Carla now is going to try and get past Jeremy Booterloop. He lost about 6 seconds in 3 laps. He's going a lot slower down the straight as well, so I think there might be problems with Jeremy Booterloop. Carla's just breezed past him there. So I think Jeremy Booterloop may be struggling with top-end speed.
Scott?
I'll tell you something else very quick. Well, Matt Backham got very sideways on the exit of turn 5. So he's now still in that 5th position, but he was very lucky not to lose the back of the car. So he's now fallen back a few more car next to Andre Butch at the moment.
I tell you what, if I had a nickel for every time we talked about Matt Backham going sideways just doing a NASCAR advert, then I would be a rich man by now.
He did plenty of that in Montreal in the Daytona Prototype, which I wrongly called the Radical earlier on, so I'll give myself a slap on the wrist for that. But he did plenty of that in the Daytona Prototype, so he's doing it now in the HPD. Well, there's not one thing in iRacing that Matt Backham won't try and get sideways.
By the way, we're getting word that Blake Townend is out of the race, and I tell you what, there was an incident. This was coming out of turn number 5. I'm not sure how terminal it was, but he ran on that exit curb, as we see people do all day long. He just grazed that concrete barrier, and I'm having to see if anything else happened to him at all. Brought his car into pit road, and it's game over for Blake Townend. Now, I find turn 5, Randy, to be very similar to turn 1 at Watkins Glen. You've got that asphalt curve on the outside, you know, you can really push it. But you've got to remember that you've still got that normal sawtooth curve as well. You touch it the wrong way, that car is just going to spear across the racetrack. And Blake Townend, an unfortunate victim there.
Yeah, it's maybe similar to the turn 1 at Watkins, but the difference is that there's much more elevation change, and the curb is much more severe. And the problem is that in order to get as much out of the car as you can and push as he probably was doing, you have to run all over that curve on exit. So, I mean, it really is kind of a, I mean, this entire track really, to put down a quick lap, is all risk versus reward. It takes a whole lot of risk to get a whole lot of reward.
And Dan, we're going to turn our attention back to another Radical driver, and that is Jeremy Booterloop in the number 30 machine. And he really is struggling for top-end speed right now. He's only doing 164 on the backstretch. Perhaps he might be trying to eke out another couple of laps, perhaps even do this race in one more pit stop. Maybe he took too little fuel up first time around.
Yeah, maybe it's very slow though, and that's going to be Andrew Bocher going past him to take 3rd position. So Andrew Bocher just breezes past Jeremy Booterloop. Booterloop's going a bit faster this time though. He's up to 174 on the brake. He's gets down to the braking zone. Almost lost the car. They did well to keep it there, but it seems like Booterloop now may have decided to put his fuel map up again if he had put it down, because he's lost a lot of time and now he's right in that fight.
And as far as the LMP cars, you've got 8 different options which you can use for the fuel. I think it's 8 anyway. And of course, mix number 1, you've got the most power. Mix number 8, use the least power. And that all is for saving fuel. It's very similar to what IndyCar used back in the late 2000s, when you can literally turn the dial, it will increase or decrease the amount of power you have in your car. But at the same time though, Randy, we all know the best way of saving fuel in any of these cars is by the use of your right foot.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to save fuel regardless of the map. The maps definitely help. They make it just a little bit easier to do, but it's definitely, a lot of it comes into just lifting earlier, getting into the throttle a little bit later, not getting into the throttle as hard. That's generally where you make up all your differences in fuel consumption.
I'm going to talk to a couple of drivers very quickly, both unfortunately out of the race very early on. Blake Townend, all went wrong for you at turn number 5 and just caught that curb the wrong way coming out, grazed the concrete barrier, and game over there for your Radical Corvette.
Sadly, yes. The car was quite a handful to drive throughout the whole race. In fact, I'm quite lucky I didn't break the guys behind me in the Corvette class, because from the get-go that thing was undrivable. I was pushing it really hard to catch William and Anders and the other guys, but it was such a handful. I was probably on the grass more than the tarmac, sadly.
And I mean, up to that point, it'd been a pretty good race for you, all things considered. You know, you're running reasonably well, top 5 in class, and just how hard were you pushing it at that stage of the race?
I feel like my instant count was pretty hard. It just, the car is completely undrivable, and so yeah, you go in through most corners, same braking as the previous lap, and you're off the circuit. It's I don't know what's wrong with the weather, but it's.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Yari, but Anders
handful.
Dahl, second place in GT1, just had an issue going into the S's. He was way off in turn 3, trying to make a pass on, I believe it's Kevin Beckerman.
Yeah, and he has lost that position to Bakerman. He's just gone back past. Yeah, so we'll come back to that in just a moment, but carry on, Blake.
Yeah, so as I was just saying, that just the whole race was a complete struggle for myself. I created a setup that was meant for understeer in the practice. Lap times were looking pretty promising, and it looked like I was able to fight up front. And yeah, just come the race, the whole car was behaving very different to what I was practicing, and so yeah, I just driving it well beyond my capabilities. It's just a handful, sadly.
Well, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, big thanks to Radicals for all the support, and also Steel Series again, fantastic support. So thank you guys.
Blake Townend, unfortunately out early on in this race. We're going to talk to, unfortunately, another Radical driver as well, Roderick Cronin. Your race came to a very early end on lap number 24. What went wrong for you?
Well, first I came together with Blake. I owed quite a lot of bets up there in that turn, and every time would work, but I was just a bit too late there. And then I decided to take an early stop to get my fast tow, to have a new car basically. And I was doing pretty well off there, but it only took 2 laps, and then I hit the landmine in the last turn, unfortunately. And well, if you hit that landmine, your top speed is gone. And since I didn't have that fast repair anymore, I decided to call it an end, because too long to drive around with a lap down.
And you qualified, for this race in 6th position. Were you disappointed that, you've not achieved what you wanted to in this race, and also looking forward to Zolder in 3 weeks' time? You're looking for a better showing out there?
I'm not sure if I will be there, but I was pretty happy with my 6 Spider 3 because I didn't really practice much for it, so it wasn't too bad, and it was really a tough, with all the wind in the qualified, it was tough to set a good lap, but as you could see in the race, It was also very tough with the wind, and that's why I think most people went off. And still,
Well,
the wind is very.
the wind is very bad. It's about 12 miles an hour, by the way, northerly on the racetrack. But before we let you go, you're probably going to say exactly the same with Blake. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes, of course, my whole team. We worked together this whole week, and especially to Rob and Mag, they made a nice set. And sponsors too.
Well, talk to you a little bit later on. Roger Cronin, unfortunately, also out of the race very early on. Disappointing there for both those drivers, especially Blake. I actually had dinner with him yesterday, popped down to Milton Keynes. We had a good afternoon out, but he's one of the most popular drivers in that kind of GT and F1 crowd. He recently retired from the World Championship Series after his 3rd season, Dan, but still one of the most popular drivers in GT racing. Came so close to winning the Grand Am Premier Series title last year. Overall good guy, but again, luck just not on his side.
Yeah, definitely one of the good guys of iRacing, but Blake Townend unfortunately not had the luck this time, unfortunately, and it seems to be that none of his Radicals teammates have really had a best of luck either, because German Bootsup is still going extremely slowly, and something that Randolph has said off air, maybe Bootsup could have hit that landmine because his times are so much slower, but it'll be interesting to see how that develops throughout the race. But Blake Townend, all round good guy, he's very quick in most things he drives, well, anything he drives really, but yeah, be very disappointed with going out today, but definitely one of the popular people, as you said, Will, on the iRacing scene.
Something to note on the landmine, Roderick Cronin just actually messaged me. He just asked Jeremy in TeamSpeak, and Jeremy did confirm that he did hit that landmine, and that's what's affecting his speed right now.
So he'll have to see whether he can get some changes to his car, repairs to his car when he makes his 2nd pit stop of the day. The radical bad luck continues, by the way. The number 21 machine of Rob Cust being given a warning by race control for a dive bomb, and it's a crash at the chicane, and this all started with Tommaso Carla. I just saw him spinning it off at the chicane, and I believe there was contact when, another car. He just outbroke himself into the chicane completely. I believe that was Oliver. No, it wasn't Oliver Brand.
That's Craig Hunter.
It was Craig Hunter, and he just spun Tommaso Carla around. Carla's going to have to bring his car down onto pit road. Indeed, he does. And that is going to force Carla's hand for a pit stop early. 52 minutes remaining in this race. The question's going to be now, A, can he get repairs to his race car, Scott? And B, will he be able to have enough fuel to go to the race without another pit stop? Bad luck there for Carla. Change of circumstance. And of course, he's been running in the top 5 all day long.
He's going to have to think on his feet. He's going to have to see, right, what can I salvage from this situation? Because, of course, it really has compromised his chance of getting a top 5. So he has to go out there and try and race for himself and potentially try and salvage something from this race. If he can keep the car somewhere around the top 10 and try and get it back as quickly as he can. He is in the pits, of course, quite now getting in service right now. The next car which will go through, which already has, is Andre Martin, so he's now down to what I believe is now going to be 6th position. And Rob Cuss is just coming past the start and finish straight now to unlap himself from Carla, I believe. So this now means that Carla's going to get out there, and they've basically run like the wind in these last few races. And I think, is that him? No, it's not him after the race. That was some lag on my screen. No. So Carla's going to have to really push on his last few laps because, you know, the team are going to try and repair that damage as best they can, but it's probably not going to be able to repair all of it. So he'll have to struggle on and just make do with what he's got, because he's now got another 45 minutes left. He's going to have to use those 45 minutes wisely, pick his way through the traffic as best he can, and just try not to get caught up too much and hope that some of the guys in front fall into a few problems. He is faster than Martins and Cuss, so he can at least take that away, and he can try and push on to catch them up.
I'm having a look, by the way, when he made his first pit stop, and that was on lap number 42 in this race. He was working himself onto lap number 80, and he's still stuck on pit road, so this really is going to hurt him now. So his chance for top 5, that's pretty much done, and it looks as though he's now out of the race. Tommaso Carla, who of course has been running at least in the top 5 all race long, had great battles with Andre Borcher, Mac Backham the entire race long. Just to give you an update, by the way, Jeremy Bootloop is running in the 4th position. He's fallen back by about 4 seconds from the rear of Mac Backham, his teammate in the number 16 Radicals car. But Borcher now, I mean, he's running pretty fast. And let's not forget, we've not talked about this yet, it is a 1-2 right now for Team My3ID Racing in the LMP class, Randy. And of course, My3ID, arguably in the top, easily in the top 5 sim racing teams as far as road racing goes on the planet, and they're showing their hand once again here.
Oh yeah, they got a very, very talented set of drivers over there. Obviously they, I think they seem to prefer the higher downforce car the bit. That's generally what I see them running in, but I might be completely wrong there. But yeah, they're pretty much running away with this right now. Andre Bocher and especially Jorn. I mean, Jorn's out 30 seconds. He's got a 30-second gap to his teammate in second. I mean, Jorn. I mean, he's been leading the whole way, and we haven't been really able to talk to him because he's made it kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah, so we haven't really talked about Jorn Jens ever since the first 15 minutes of the race, but he's got that gap up to 31 seconds in the LMP2 class. The rest of your top 5, by the way, it's Borch second, Mac Backham third, Jeremy Bootloop in fourth, Andre Martins running out your top 5. And as Scott predicted earlier, we've now only got 4 cars scored on the lead lap. In GT1, we have ourselves William Levesque still leading from Anders Dahl, Junior Ligo third, Maxim Ramstein in fourth, and then we have Kevin Wiekemans in the 5th position. Again, only 4 cars scored on the lead lap in GT1, and then in GT2, it's Rup Tequila from Phil Diaz, from Oliver Brand, from Ahmed Yamin, and Jonathan Fuller. They are your top 5 there. 4 cars scored on the lead lap in GT2 as well. And Phil Diaz, I have to say, he's kind of stemmed the bleeding a little bit, Dan. He's still only 16.7 seconds behind Rup Tequila. Now, let's pretend that Tequila gets himself a black flag penalty or something, or gets involved in a slight issue, has a spin. That lead would disappear. So Diaz is still keeping Tequila slightly honest.
Yeah, definitely. Philip Diaz has kept Rup Tequila, has not made quite a few people before would have thought that Tequila would have pulled out quite a bit after we lost John Paul and Niki earlier on in the race, but as you said before, a mistake, a black flag, a spin, and Philip Diaz will be right in this, if not in front of Rup Tequila. So he can maybe relax a little bit, but not too much, because Diaz is still in the striking range. By the way,
Andre Borcher is making his 2nd pit stop of the day. We've got also Mac Backham on pit road, Yuri Ritzhock on pit road, Vincenzo Amico on pit road, and Craig Hunter, his car's destroyed, however. Anders Dahl from 2nd position in GT1 also brings his car onto pit road. So we're into that 2nd pit stop window right now, and I'm just doing my maths. I think it's going to be very, very close. They're going to have to brim those cars up with fuel, Randy, and also hope that Jorn Jens doesn't have to do that extra lap. And I always talk about that extra lap in endurance racing. Because Jorn Jens is so far ahead, we might get that extra lap, and a couple of guys might be very, very close on fuel.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something Jorn should look into doing. I mean, he's got a far enough lead that in terms of when he pits, he can afford maybe to take that extra fuel so that he doesn't have to worry about saving should that happen. So, I mean, that's definitely something that will definitely play into Jorn's favor for sure.
There are 46 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the play clock. For those of you who are new to endurance racing, this is how it works. As soon as the time goes to 0, that will be the white flag lap. Of course, if you come past the start-finish line with 2 seconds remaining on the play clock, you do a complete extra lap. And it's not as bad here as a track compared, for example, to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, where the lap times are over 2 minutes long. It's only about a 1 minute 15 lap here for the LMP cars at least. However, that extra lap can make a big difference. And because this track is so fast, you're on the throttle for so much, if you are a tiny bit short, you're going to have to start saving now. And this could be a very interesting final part of this race. Jorn Jens, by the way, made his pit stop. He is out and away. And it looks as though that Jeremy Bootloop is still in that 3rd position. Andre Borcher is still running it in the 2nd spot in the LMP class. William Levesque, by the way, he's still circulating on the racetrack. I'm going to see whether he's going to bring his car onto pit road this time. By his last lap, a 1 minute 16.981. He's got quite a bit of traffic ahead of him, so if I was Levesque, I might consider bringing it onto pit road this time by just to avoid having to negotiate a lot of that traffic when the GT2 car comes onto pit road that was ahead of him. That was Phil Diaz from P2 in the GT2 class. And also, Anders Dahl, it looks like that he is now down into 3rd place in the GT1 class, Dan. As Aligo now pits, in fact, take that back, Aligo pits, so now it looks like that Anders Dahl is back up into P2 in GT1.
I don't think they've quite gone through their pit secret yet in GT1, so I wouldn't take them as they are at the moment. But I think Anders Dahl is going to be, because Anders Dahl was in fact not far from being lapped by Carl William Levesque, but we know that they've not been, that Levesque's not pitted yet, so that is, it's still looks like quite a big lead, but it's not quite as big as it's looking on the screen at the moment.
And Levesque stays out for another lap. And is this actually Levesque perhaps? You know, just a little bit of traffic there, not going to hurt him too much. His last lap time again, a 1 minute 16.567 in that Inex Racing car. And we'll go back to the start of this race, Scott. He qualified in 5th position. He had to work his way to the front of the field. We didn't really see his true pace, as in hot lapping, as we call it, in the first 10, because he was working through traffic the entire time. This second stint, he has just been completely untouchable as he now brings his car into pit road.
He definitely wasn't showing the same kind of pace that earned him those world record laps that he's been setting, and of course it vindicates why he is now one of the fastest Corvette drivers in iRacing, in the whole of iRacing in fact. So it's pretty impressive, and Levesque has now even got to such a point where he's so quick that he's actually up there classified. It will be P7 because Andre Martins is out of the race recently, which means he'll be P7 overall, as well as leading in class with coming up to the last half an hour of the race. And that's the crucial part of the race, which you mentioned earlier on, Will. Those kind of guys who don't usually race endurance races, those last half hour could make or break the difference between those who are used to running this long and those who aren't, because those who aren't probably starting to be a little bit drained both mentally and physically, as Levesque now leaves his pit stall. Should be away quickly, as you can see where Anders Dahl is. Well, he's a lap ahead of him, so yeah. I think. So Anders Dahl is only going to make his way back halfway down the back straight, so Levesque will get out with plenty of space in front, and there he goes to the GT2 car. So effectively now, this is Levesque's race to lose.
Indeed, and Rup Tequila, by the way, made his pit stop from the GT2 race lead as well. He's come out, no issues for him at all. And the gap between himself and Phil Diaz, well, that grew by about 2 seconds on the racetrack. Interesting to note that Rob Cassidy's just bringing his car onto pit road. He was classified in the 4th position. He's going to drop back a little bit now, but probably only back to 6th position. We're down now to just 6 LMP cars in real contention in this race as Rob Cuss. Let's say he's on pit road. Pit road speed very slow here, just 45 miles an hour. Ahmed Yamin as well. He is just coming out of his pit box. He was scored 3rd in the GT2 class. He will likely drop back just a little bit as well. Having a look to see where Oliver Brandt is. He's up over the hill already. So Yamin coming down into, I believe, 4th position on the racetrack, because Jonathan Fuller just coming down into the chicane right about now. We'll run through, by the way, your top 5 in each class once it's sorted itself out in just a couple of moments' time. But interesting point to note here as well, Dan. Andrea Borch has been able to pull out a 5-second lead now over Matt Backham in that battle for P2 in the LMP class.
Yeah, they've finally decided that they don't want to play together any longer. But it's as good as that battle was earlier, with Tommaso Carla going out, Andrea Bocher and Matt Backham have now got closer. But also, don't know if you guys noticed this, but Jeremy Boothips in fact now out of the race. The landmine damage obviously was too much damage, or something else has happened. So Rob Cuss will actually take 4th place when he crosses the line this time. So he's going to be the top Radicals driver in this race. Fantastic going for Rob Cuss. I don't think he's actually, because Matt Backham's 3rd, but Rob Cuss will be 4th position. And I thought Rob was going to come in for in-race supporting at some point, but I don't think we'll see him now.
Indeed, no. And of course, Rob Cuss helped out for that 4th position by the unfortunate circumstances of a Radical teammate. It's been a horrible day for the Radicals overall, but they are still running 3rd and 4th in the LMP class. And we're going to take a short break. We've got 40 minutes left on the play clock, and we'll return for uninterrupted coverage of the final part of the 2013 Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans, brought to you by Fanatec. We'll be right back.
iRacing's precision-engineered cars. I can tell you about iRacing's authentically detailed tracks. I can tell you about iRacing's incredibly satisfying physics. But what I can't tell you is what it's like to be part of this.
So welcome back to the last 37 minutes of the 2013 Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans, brought to you by Fanatec. Will Vincent, along with Dan Blake, Scott Woodwis and Randall Shenworth here at Road Atlanta. Track temperature still 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind still about 10 miles an hour to the north, and race humidity still 49%. I'd like to give out a shout out to Fanatec, the presenting sponsor of this race. And whilst we were on ad break, Scott Backham was able to get himself up to P2 in the LMP class, but this is far from over. Andre Borcher 1.2 seconds back, but I still think that Borcher might try and bring himself back into this, because Backham's got a lot of traffic ahead of him.
He certainly has. He's actually got one of the Corvettes run very wide through turns 5, 6 and 7. He's just about to get his way around and goes to the kink of 8. But yeah, Backham in his typical sideways style managed to get past at some point, and it was down. Pretty much there's no running to here, down towards the braking zone for turns 10 A and B, the chicane at the bottom of the hill, the end of the back straight. And Bircher just at the end of turn 5, back there, around wide, very wide in fact, over the runoff area, over the tarmac, but he's actually lost a little bit of time. But now there's a heavy amount of traffic coming through that Backham's going to have to try and get his way around it. Knowing his typical style, he'll probably drift around it rather than just trying to pass it normally. So he goes past the Corvette, and the Ford GT will let him through as well. Yes, he does. And Backham now is on his way now to potentially getting second place, and he's actually creating quite a bit of through this traffic, creating quite a bit of a gap to Butcher behind, because Butcher's still stuck behind those two cars that Backham hasn't been able to get around. So this is pretty crucial for Backham to try and get himself a step higher on the podium. Yeah, and I tell you what, Borcher's losing a lot of time here. He lost himself 2 seconds in that first half a lap. He's losing it all the time here, as of course the GT1 car is trying to overtake the GT2 car, while the LMP car is trying to overtake both of them. Borcher finally gets past, and he's now 3 seconds behind Matt Backham in that battle for P2 in class. Your top 5 in each of the classes. Jean Yen still leads away. He's pretty much led this entire race in LMP2. Mac Backham in second, 35 seconds back. Andre Borcher in third. Only 3 cars scored on the lead lap in LMP class. And then Rob Cuss and David Grunhill round out your top 5. In GT1, William Levesque still leads away from Anders Starr, now by 28 seconds on the racetrack. Junior Oligo a further 10 seconds back in third. Maxim Ramstein in the 4th position. Farouk Manzar worked himself now up into
5th place in class. And in GT2, Root Tequila leads away from Phil Diaz. That gap still about 18 seconds on the racetrack. Oliver Brandt in 3rd, Ahmed Jamin in 4th, and then Jonathan Fuller rounds out your top 5 in GT2. Let's talk very quickly about the GT2 battles that's been going on, because you've had Jonathan Fuller move up a little bit. You've also had Oliver Brandt. He's on that split strategy, and I'm having a look right now. If Brandt has to pit again, which we believe he does, then he will fall behind Ahmed Yamin and potentially could fall back into the clutches of Jonathan Fuller as well. So Oliver Brandt's having to push right now just to stay in the top 4.
Yeah, for sure. That 3-star strategy, I don't really think it was a good idea. The thing with the GT2 cars is that there isn't a whole lot of tire fall off in those things, and generally what tire fall off there is counteracted by the fact that the car gets wider over the course of the run, and you actually end up getting faster over the course of the run. So I'm not sure why he would choose the 3-stop. Definitely interesting. Definitely a weird choice. I think it's definitely the wrong choice for sure.
Just give you an update on a couple more retirees. We've had Andre Martins out of the race, and also Yuri Ritok also out of the race in the 007 machine. That was very recently in GT1. So we're into, like I say, that last kind of like 45 minutes of the race now, Dan, and we are seeing a lot more guys having single incidents, putting their cars into the wall. That fatigue factor is starting to kick in.
Yeah, as you would expect after a race of this distance, these guys are putting a lot of work in. You might think it's only a simulator, but believe me, they are still putting in a lot of hard work to keep these cars on the track, and especially with the traffic and that as well. The mind and the concentration is being tested to its fullest amount as well. So these guys definitely physically and mentally will be starting to feel it about now, and this is about the time where we might see a lot more incidents. I think we've seen quite a few already where people have made mistakes they probably wouldn't make earlier in the race sort of thing, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. But Matt Backham at the moment is still kept that gap to Andre Bocha about a second and a half, so just maintaining that gap as we speak.
By the way, Julian Aligo has had to get a tow to pit road, and this was down at turn number 5. And he worked himself through the S's. There's no issues there. Replay's coming up on your screen, by the way. And coming into turn 5, I don't even know if he just outbraked himself. As soon as he got himself onto the gravel, slammed it into the tyre barrier. He was able to reverse it out. He's had to get a tow to pit road, however. And the 23 car is now out of a podium position. And the 888 machine of Maxim Remstein is now running in that 3rd position in class. So it's got another driver, another unforced error this late into the race with 31 minutes left on the play clock.
And what's also interesting is that if you remember, if anyone watched the Montreal race, Maxime Ramstein actually took the victory on the start and finish line because the actual guy who was leading the class ran out of fuel, and Ramstein just came straight through and snatched the win literally just meters before the line. So Ramstein here is one who's strangely benefiting from the misfortune of others, because he's up there in 3rd place now. He's got, I think, the 4th place Rob Cuss machine behind him, about to lap him in that LMP2 car. But Ramstein, a very capable GT driver, did a great job in the McLaren back at Montreal. Now he's doing a great job in now he's effectively 2 classes higher up, because that was a GT3 car, this is a GT1 class car he's up to now, and he's doing a grand job in 3rd place. So he will deserve, I think he very deservingly will get his 2nd podium in as many races in the Neo Endurance Series in a GT class car, which I have to admit is very impressive by the fact that 2 different cars, of course on 2 different circuits, and he had to learn them pretty quickly, and so great job by Maxim. That's not an easy feat to do.
By the way, Vigo is now classified as out of the race. Nothing that he could do in that situation at all. Don't forget, the next round of the Neo Endurance Series, that will be November 17th, and that will be the 2.4 hours of Zolder. Start time for that will be 6 PM GMT. And then coming up the following Saturday, the final round of the iRacing World Tour for 2013. It will be the World Tour event, the iRacing.com Brazilian Grand Prix. And Scott, you and I had the chance to commentate the WCS race there, and it really is one of the most difficult tracks for the Formula 1 cars, because you look at it on paper, it looks very simple. In reality, however, a lot of troublesome corners, and let's not forget, Atikirkov had issues there, which essentially ended the championship charge for Hugo Louise. And then also you had Ben Cornette there, out at the same corner, a couple of laps later. Very difficult racetrack.
It's a very tricky, difficult racetrack, but it's one that the drivers do enjoy. It's got those two different contrasting sections. You've got the very fast, high-speed outfield section, of course, which incorporates some of the very fast, long straights, which the old circuit still had. And then you've got the very tight and twisty infield section, of course, with lots of very slow corners, but they've got quite sweeping corners as well. So it is more of a rear limited circuit because actually there's quite a balance of the two, because you've got the first half of the circuit, very long corners, quite fast, it's quite front limited. Then the kind of infield section is very tight and twisty, very rear limited as well. So the balance on tyre wear is quite tricky, so there's going to be a similar factors on that one. And also, of course, it's one of the only circuits which they visit, which I believe, unless you're racing on an oval, of course, which the road course, in fact, which is actually anti-clockwise.
Correct.
And so it's a very tricky circuit on that case. I know in many cases drivers in F1 don't really like it because effectively you're turning left all the time, so you have to put a lot of strain on your neck muscles. So remember one year, 98, Mega Hackman, 1998, his neck went so much he actually had to rest his head on the headrest on the back of the cockpit because his neck had completely gone.
Yeah, and I've heard so many things about drivers literally laying on a bed with their helmet on, literally dangling their head up. So many strange things that people do to prepare for Interlagos, and of course the WCS race coming out your way in about a month's time. Back to the action here at Road Atlanta, however, and things really have settled themselves down a little bit, but the battle for P2 in LMP is not over yet. Andre Borg has closed that gap back down to 1.4 seconds. He's not really made too many inroads on Matt Backen recently. Last lap times, Borg was just about half a tenth faster in that number 67 My 3ID racing machine, of course, closing down the number 16 Radical Steel Series car of Matt Backen. But gap came down about 3 tenths there in the second sector of lap 100, which they're about to complete, by the way. Just imagine that, racing 100 laps plus at Road Atlanta. But that battle's far from over, and I think Borgia just rested back a little bit as he goes a little bit deep into the chicane there. But Borgia, I don't think this is over yet. And also we're getting word that Vincenzo Amico, no it's not, it's David Granell. Granell has brought his car onto pit road, so that will move Amico up into the 5th position in LMP2 class, and attrition really starting to come into play now. And we're getting word that his engine blew up, and that's the second LMP we've seen having engine issues with, Randy. Almost to the IndyCar race that was happening yesterday at Auto Club Speedway. A lot of engine issues on cars that you don't normally expect to have engine issues.
Yeah, they probably have these things trimmed out as much as they can, and they're probably hitting such high speeds down the back straight. Maybe going a bit faster due to the draft. Maybe the engine gets up to high revs. Maybe not getting as much air into the intake because of the revs. The engine starts getting hot. It's definitely easy to blow up a motor that way. I do believe I heard the grumblings on the team radio. He may have hit a landmine earlier as well, which you can blow up your motor that way too. And he has pulled the car off the racetrack, out of the pit lane.
And because it's such a bumpy track here as well, we'll talk about the landmines, what we essentially mean. Very big bumps, and the biggest one is on that last part of the final corner of the racetrack. It's so bumpy down there. You catch, that bump, that landmine in the wrong place, it can really damage the under tray of the race car. And of course, the engine, because these cars run so low to the ground as well, the way the car kind of bottoms out going into that section of the racetrack can really cause some issues. And I think that's why I say this is now the second of these incidents we've had in this race. Meanwhile, that battle that we've been talking about for quite a while, Backen and Borgia, is up to 1.6 seconds. And Borgia is going to lose a little bit more here coming through turn 7 because he's got some traffic that Backen was able to clear before turn 6 and 7. Now Borgia is going to be able to get past him on the back straight. He might actually get a bit of a tow here from William Levesque, of course, who is your race leader in that GT1 car. And Borgia 1.8 seconds further back. Just to give you an update, by the way, on Anders Dahl, he's 28 seconds behind Levesque. We did expect Levesque to be very quick here in this race, Scott. We didn't expect him to have a half-second gap over that iRacing Denmark car of Anders Dahl, who we all know is one of the best drivers ever to strap him into this GT1 Corvette C6R.
Certainly, but as I said earlier on, the point I made that William Levesque has taken to iRacing and the Corvette in particular like a duck to water, and he really has just taking a lot of strength. That he's done a lot of touring car racing before, as I said. That has included racing in a variant of V8 supercars. So he's used to big kind of front engine, big V8, it's heavy, cumbersome race cars like the Corvette is. It's not too heavy, but of course you know what I mean. It's kind of like it's a big heavy V8 front engine Leviathan like this for cars. So he's no stranger to it, and he's taken to it really well. So that experience of racing in touring cars with those kind of cars really has helped him adapt. And that has now pushed him on to, as I said, one of the best Corvette drivers in iRacing in the world. So, once the vet gets wound up and once he is in the groove and everything feels good, the car feels good, he feels all right, track conditions are good for him, he just runs and he is unstoppable.
So, right now, it seems like things really have kind of calmed down just a little bit. Having a look through right now, and the field really has kind of separated itself out. So that best battle we have had is in your LMP class between Borcher and Backham. A little bit for GT2. I'm just having a look at the lap times, and Ahmed Yamin is starting to close down Oliver Brand. Of course, Randy, we talked about this earlier on. Brand on this potential 3-stop race. Perhaps he's having to backpedal now just to try and bring that car to the end. But he's going to have to do 65 minutes on 1 tank of gas. It's doable, but only just.
Yeah, it is something that's very, very hard to do. Like we were saying earlier, I've probably the best fuel saver in the Ford GT, Rupi Turkla. He would do those sort of stints in the official series when we had 65-minute races last season. But he was really the only one that could do it, and even then, it kind of depended on the track. Road Atlanta is a track where in that amount of time you do use a lot of fuel because you're on the throttle for such a long period. So I mean, it's going to be hard, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
And the issue is, I mean, there are some tracks, let's take Spa for example, where you've got so many fast, long corners where you can kind of throttle out the gas a little bit earlier, carry a little less rev through the corner itself, get on the power a tiny bit late and not lose as much. Here, you've only really got one momentum part of the racetrack, and that is the S's. Apart from that, you can't stop-start for the rest of the way. So that's one of the reasons why, you've got less chances to make up fuel here compared to some other places. However, last time by, 1 minute 21.9 for Ahmed Yamin, 1 minute 21.4 for Oliver Brand. Of course, so that gap just 10 seconds on the racetrack. The interesting bit, however, is Yamin going very sideways into turn 7. Jonathan Fuller is 31 seconds back from Oliver Brand. Now, that's going to be pretty close between the two of them. And although Fuller is running laps about 4 tenths a lap slower than Oliver Brand, if Brand has to make another pit stop, it's going to be mighty close between the two of them, of course. These Ford GT cars, they take quite a while to fill up regardless of how much fuel you put in there, Scott.
Yeah, of course, different race cars have different size fuel tanks, of course, so these guys are going to, obviously, have to take that into consideration and plan accordingly. The GT2 cars, of course, are pretty decent out there on track, and, I mean, to be fair, I mean, one thing that's surprised me, just to talk about it, is just how high the attrition rate's been. Of course, then we started the race with 39 cars, and we're down to 18, so we've lost just over half the field, and if we're not careful, we might be getting close to losing nearly 2/3 of the field, which I think is incredible. The fuel consumption on the Ford is 0.6 gallons per lap without any fuel saving, so compared to anything else, of course, it just, okay, as you said earlier on, well, it's all about how you use that right foot and how you drive this thing, and of course, other things like how much area you've got in the car as well, and things like that can come into effect too, and of course, and also things such as whether you're using the tow and getting caught in someone's dirty air, because that can affect fuel consumption as well. So all those kind of factors come into play. So you have to kind of think about that next time you come onto pit road.
Yeah, something you mentioned with the tow thing with Oliver Brandt trying to save this. He's trying to save about 10 minutes worth of fuel, and really as spread out as the Ford GT field is, he doesn't really get the chance to get a good tow. The only draft he ever gets a chance to get is that of either the Corvette or the LMP2 cars, and by the time he gets a draft, they're already gone. So
don't forget, by the way,
really close.
Don't forget, by the way, you can follow us at GlacierTV. Follow myself at Wilvinson, 1L, not 2, please. Keep in contact with us throughout the race on YouTube as well, unless you're watching this on YouTube after the race, in which case it's pointless talking to us because we're not going to talk to you back. But hey ho, I sound like I'm talking about Dave right now. Let's run through your top drivers in LMP. Jorn Yen still leading the way by 38 seconds now over Matt Backham. And Andre Borcher has closed that gap down once again to just second, but as he does so, again, traffic's hurting him a little bit. He lost 2/10 there through turn 6 and 7 as he's trying to move himself past Kevin Beekman in the number 88 car for Dale. And he will get himself past, and the gap now down to 0.7 of a second. That LMP battle is far from over in LMP. The interesting thing is, though, who's going to win it out of race 2? Because I think Borger by far has been the more consistent driver here today. But back in when he hooks that car up, he has been very fast. But in the latter stages of a run, it does look as though that Borger has been faster. Look at the run he's got, though. He's gained half a second in half a lap. And I think Backham's tyres go off very early into a run. He's still got 20 minutes to go, and he's going to have to resist Andre Borcher. It's going to be GT1 traffic, which you see there, he's just going to let both of them pass. Borcher's lost about 0.5 of a second there in the process. But I think Backham's tyres have started to go away, Randy.
It's definitely possible. I'm not sure where the line is through the last corner for this HPD. But he did lose a lot of ground. I wonder if maybe he did hit that landmine that has struck out Bootsaloop as well. I mean, he lost a lot of space on that front straightaway. We'll have to see as he goes down the back straight.
0.6 of a second is the gap as we come down into the chicane once again. These guys work themselves on a lap number 108. Less than 20 minutes left on the player clock. It's currently at 18 minutes and about 5 seconds. Borger is so strong through that chicane, however, and that gives him a great run through the final corner. And you were talking about this earlier on, Randy, the fact that, Backham's car looked as though it was very trimmed out. Borcher's car looked as though it's very stable. And you can really tell that in the final couple of corners. On the racetrack is Backham getting a very wide apex there. He's having to use all the racetrack right now. Because of the fact that Backham's car does look as though it's more trimmed out, of course, he uses his tyres up a lot more. And Borger looks as though he's just so smooth on his corner apexes. And of course, how many times have we talked about Backham going sideways now?
We've talked about Backham going sideways more than pretty much anything else in the entire race, I think. I mean, what we were saying about, the fact he's trimmed out, he'll be able to run away on this straight. But, Bocher, he's got a car, like you said, that's very planted. He can get the power down early. In the draft, the aero settings won't make too much of a difference as he's floating up on Mac right now, actually. And Bocher, in general, is one of the cleanest drivers there is in iRacing. So, with his more stable car, with the draft, I think he's going to be able to get around Mac.
I tell you what, though, Borcher lost the chance to make a pass there because of the GT1 car that was on the right-hand side. Borcher decided that, he's still got about 10 laps to get the job done as they work themselves past some GT2 traffic right now. And again, this is battle for P2 and 3 in the LMP class. But, of course, Jorn Jens is so far ahead, he could probably pull over, have a cup of tea, come back onto the racetrack and still win this race. But more traffic as Borcher goes all over the curb there. That's going to cost him a little bit. He actually, that was incredible there by Borcher. He goes over the curb, yes, of course. Backham was held up by a GT car through the S's a little bit, but Borcher used so much of that curb, Scott, and was still able to get away with it. And now this might be the chance where Borcher gets a very good run into turn number 6. If you can get a good run out of turn 7 onto this back straightaway, with the gap right now 0.5 of a second down to 0.4. And in fact, we're going to go on board with Borcher as they work themselves, just see how much closer he gets. You might see Backham going defensive as they come through the King, but he might have to start doing so soon because Borcher is very close, but still not making the pass yet.
I'll tell you what, the car was actually held Backham up was actually the number 9. That was the second place car in GT2, which is the Philip Diaz Ford GT. But Backham's doing everything, but I think the reason why his tyres got off in probably is because he's been sliding that thing around so much like it's a D1 Grand Prix car, which I think it's not, of course, because it has a lot more downforce, and that's why we're going to be hurting him quite a lot now. He's suffering from that tyre, but then again, Backham seems to have enough left just to keep Butcher at bay when he needs it most, especially these very tight, these very winding, twisty sections in the S's, and he's actually dropping Butcher now in this first part of this lap here. This is pretty incredible. So either Butcher's gone wide somewhere that I didn't spot in the background, or something's happened because Butcher is not being able to keep it back. And now, has Butcher got a problem or something? Because Backham's actually starting to drift away from him slightly.
Not quite sure, but I tell you what, there has been a warning for Andre
that's the reason
Borcher,
why.
and this was a very late move down into the chicane over Farouk Manzar. Of course, the ruling is if you're alongside, you got the corner, but it's a very late move there for Andre Borcher in that My Free ID car. And he gets himself a warning to race control. No penalty, however, which is thankful for him because we want to keep an eye out on this fight. But again, Borger slotted back into position. Of course, I did talk about the fact that these guys might have to save a tiny bit of fuel. Just having a look at the laps that come to pit road, I'm sure they both came on the same lap last time. So that shouldn't be too much of it. It's just Backham goes sideways. And this is going to allow Borcher to pull alongside into turn 3. But Borcher heads up driving there. He knows how many cars have been involved in incidents in turn 3 as Backham using a lot of the curb once again in turn 4 as they come down into the S's. There's traffic ahead of them as well. This could be a critical part of the race for both these drivers. Backham will get the chance to go past these cars as they come down into turn 6. And it's thread the needle time, and Borcher's held up. He's going to have to try and go 3 wide down into turn 6. He will complete the pass there and into turn 7. But let's not forget now, with that warning, Borcher is going to have to be a lot more careful, Dan, because if he gets another one, it's going to be a 15-second stop-go penalty.
Yeah, you saw that there with Vincenzo Amico. I think he probably would have wanted to have a go at him in the second of those corners, but thought better of it knowing he has a warning. But Backham's probably got about a second gap now over Borcher as a result of him being had up a little bit by Amico in that corner. But Backham's got another GT car in front of him, which will slow him up in the last corner, I think.
Indeed, yeah, the gap was 1 second, and you see Backham there. He's lost a lot of time again, and here comes Borcher down to the inside. The pass will be complete. Borcher up into P2, but of course here comes Anders Dahl, the lap car, and Borcher's going to have to go round the outside of him. No issues at all. Does Backham get past? Yes, he does. We'll get ourselves a replay of that if we can, of Matt Backham, exactly what happened. And I think he just got sideways. Surprise, surprise, through. Yeah, he caught the grass down in the final corner of the racetrack. And that's what sent him sideways. But Matt Backham, he's been driving on the ragged edge all race long. And that time, I tell you what, Randy, he's very lucky because most times you see a driver do that, they're slammed head first into the inside retaining wall.
Oh yeah, we saw Anders Dahl almost. He barely got away with it as well much earlier in the race, but he barely missed that inside retaining wall. But definitely the way Mac Backham is driving, you'd think think this is a Formula Drift event as opposed to a 2.5-hour enduro.
And we're down to 12 minutes left on the play clock as Backham uses a lot of the outside of turn number 5. Of course, that's the bit that caught out his teammate Blake Tanner, which has speared him left into the retaining wall and put him out of the race. Your top 5 in each class. It is Jorn Jens leading away from Andre Borcher, Mac Backham 3rd, Rob Kuss in 4th, and then Vincenzo Amico in the 5th position. Only 5 cars running left in LMP. In GT1, it's William Levesque still leading the way from Anders Dahl, Maxim Ramstein in 3rd position, Farouk Manzar in 4th, and then Kevin Riekmans rounds out your top 5. And then in GT2, Rup Tequila, now with a 28-second gap over Phil Diaz. He's really doubled that since that final pit stop. Oliver Brandt in 3rd, and Anna Giamet in the 4th position, closing up on Oliver Brandt, and then Jonathan Fuller rounds out your top 5. A couple of things we still need to keep an eye out on in the final 10 minutes of this race. Of course, the Backham versus Borcher battle, which has been going on now for, over 2 hours in this race. We've got to keep an eye out on Oliver Brandt as well, see if he needs to make that final stop. And also, all of these cars, we think they're very close to the window, whether or not they're going to be able to make it on fuels. And one thing we need to keep an eye out on, exactly when Jorn Jens will pass the start-finish line to take the white flag or the checkered flag of this race. But overall, Dan, we'll talk about Jorn Jens once again. He's not put a foot wrong at all.
Not put a foot wrong at all, and that's why he's probably not had very much airtime from us, because we're going out, just going about his own business, keeping himself with the traffic, making sensible decisions, and he's pulled out a 42-second lead. It might be a bit boring for him, but that's just he's going to win the race the way he stands at the moment, unless there's late drama. But we saw at Montreal, very, very late drama in the race there, so he's not won it yet, but you've got to think he's a very, very strong favourite at this point. But yeah, he's driven a very, very good and thoughtful race as Jorn Jens, and you should get a justifiable reward for that and taking victory.
And it looks like we've got a car going wide. That was Jorn Jens. Jorn Jens going wide there. and he saves it. I'm going to turn... Some of you guys might remember this. 1988, the Monaco Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna leading the race by a country mile. Someone says something to him over his team radio. He snaps out of his trance, puts the car into the wall, and that kind of almost happened to Jorn Jens there. Just got to get himself back into the groove now. I'd say he's got a 42-second gap with 10 minutes of this race left. And Jorn Jens is putting in with just 10 minutes left of this race as well in that 403 car, running in 7th position, the last of the GT1 cars circulating on the racetrack. And it does look as though Oliver Brandt has actually made 3 pit stops already, so we think he is actually good to go to the end. We think lap 73 was his last pit stop. We'll keep an eye out on it, however. He might actually have to make a 4th stop. Go on.
I was looking through the pit stops, and you only said telemetry was showing a 3rd stop that we missed. At about lap 50, which is 12 laps after his 1st stop, which is why we missed it, he got loose in the chicane, flipped the wall, and he came in for repairs and filled up, obviously. So that's where we missed him making what was actually his 2nd stop. So that's what happened with that.
But if he pitted on lap number 73, that was the one where he pitted with 1 hour left remaining, so he might actually be a 4-stop race here.
I think he should be able to make it that full hour. Without saving, you can do about 55 minutes. If you save over the entire stint, you should be able to pull that 5 minutes out, but it's still going to be close.
Going to be close indeed, and we're into the final 10 minutes of the Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans, brought to you by Fanatec. And of course, the next time that the Neo Endurance will come your way will be at Zolder in 3 weeks' time. Start time for that will be 6 p.m. GMT. Now, I'm having a look at this battle, 2nd position, and it's calmed down. Backham's now 3.5 seconds back. I'm just going to keep an eye out on him. Of course, the Radicals have already had issues with their cars hitting landmines. Bootaluk's had issues, and also Cronin's had issues as Backham goes wide. They're down into turn 6 and 7. But we'll keep an eye out on the straight line speed. As actually Backham was able to close up about a second there on Andre Borges. He had some issues on that lap as well. Top speed we are expecting for these cars is about 170 miles an hour down into 176 down into the chicane. Backham about 3 miles an hour off the pace, but it looks as though he was slower rolling onto the throttle there, Randy. So perhaps Backham just a tiny bit light on fuel.
Maybe a bit light on fuel. Maybe he thinks Bocher's gotten far enough away that he doesn't need to push as hard and slide at every opportunity. He's just going to try to get the car home. But yeah, definitely Backham being a little bit more in reserve than we were used to seeing him.
Don't forget, by the way, you can see all archived races of the Neo Endurance Series by heading over to our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/GlacierTV archive for all the previous Neo Endurance races and everything else that we've done here on Glacier TV as well. Into the closing stages of this race. Don't worry, we're not going to an ad break, I promise. And I think, though, overall, there's been some very good drives in this race. We talked about Jorn Jens having a great drive. What about that 44 car, Dan, of William Levesque? Starting 5th, he's now got a huge lead over Andy Stahl, over 30 seconds, and he's not led the entire race. He's had to come through traffic to get there. Andy Stahl, however, he's kind of lost his race by the fact that he's struggled in the second half of the fuel run.
William Levesque's done a very good job this afternoon. He's managed to keep his concentration, keep everything going, and Anders Dahl, a bit sloppy in the early stages of the race, made a couple of mistakes, and as you said there, the second half of the race, he's just not had the pace of Levesque. Levesque had, earlier on, he had a very good battle. He was with Blake Townend, and he was also fighting with the car which had the blown engine, unfortunately, the guy we had called Yari Latari. So once those two retired, really, Levesque's been unchallenged, but up until then, they weren't quite at his pace, but it was a very good battle between the 4 of them. But Anders Dahl's done well to recover to 2nd place. I think he's going to keep that position the way things stand at the moment. But William Levesque, is a fantastic drive for him there on the Neo Endurance Series. It's definitely seen a great drive from him today.
So, Jorn Jens still leads the way in LMP class. In GT1, William Levesque still leads the way, and Rup Tequila still leads the way in GT2 as well. Now, Phil Diaz, he was about 15 seconds back coming into that third and final round of pit stop, Scott. Really dropped back in this third and final stint. But of course, with Diaz, he knows that he's got such a huge gap over Oliver Brandt. He doesn't need to push yet, unless Tequila puts a foot wrong. Let's not forget, Tequila, one of the most consistent drivers there is in GT racing. Diaz was not going to take the win, but good drive by Phil Diaz. But what a drive again by Roop Tequila. Of course, we kind of lost the battle we were expecting in GT2 with Neelis being out early, Vestige being out early, but 36 car, really, again, a driver who's not put a foot wrong.
It's definitely, he's the definition of the word consistency in that GT2 class. Fantastic driver in that Ford GT. And Phil Diaz, of course, he's got quite a big gap back, but of course he maybe just be fuel saving just to make sure that he can get that car to the finish and just not taking too many risks, and of course just giving plenty of wide berth to any faster cars that are coming up behind. So Diaz just running a solid race in second place. Oliver Brandt is back in P3. I mean, he's only just come to the final chicane up towards the final corner. He's got wide on the exit of that corner. Very careful not to spin the rear of that number 37 car, but he's now back in third place, way back. So, but he himself is actually, I mean, Yami's not too far away from him either. He's about, I'd say, I'm guessing around about 8 or 10 seconds back. So if Brandt makes a mistake, Yami can capitalise and grab the final podium spot in GT2 class. But yeah, flawless drive so far from Tequila. Haven't seen too much from today, and can't really blame him because hasn't put a wheel wrong, and it's been absolutely just unbelievably consistent, as much as Jean Jens has up the front.
And someone else who hasn't put a wheel wrong is leading, that we haven't really talked about since the beginning of the second stint, is William White. Talked about him a little bit, but he's just...
him. Are you not paying any attention? We talked about him for about 2 minutes, about 4 minutes ago.
No, I didn't. I was looking up fuel numbers for Oliver Brandt. My bad.
It's okay. Do you want to talk about him? Talk about him.
No, it's good. I don't want to get ridiculed anymore.
But there are a couple of drivers as well who, you know, they're not running in the lead, but having some great races. People, for example, like Maxim Ramstein. People also like Rob Cost, who's running 4th in LMP class, and also in GT2, for example, you've got Ahmed Yamin running nicely in the top 5 as well. And I'm going to take a line here, Scott, from Murray Walker. To finish first you have to finish. And these guys, you know, they're not the fastest on the racetrack, but they have got their car in one piece in the final 5 minutes of the race, and they're going to bring it home top 5 each in their class.
Well, it's more they can say for the guys that haven't been able to get a car at the end of the race, obviously for whatever kind of circumstances, whether they got caught up in an incident or it's due to reliability problems or whatever it might have been. The first part of getting to any end of any endurance race, I can hear Cameron Yoni laugh in the background in my ears. He has been for quite a while now. It's rather distracting. Of course, that's not distracting, is it? No, the first part of actually finishing any endurance race is that you have to finish. That's the first part of any endurance race. That's the first step. If you're going to take the flight from go from sprint races to enduros, just get the car to the finish, because then you'll learn a lot from that race. You'll learn how to manage the tyres, how to manage the car mechanically, how to have more mechanical sympathy with whatever car you're running, and also running with pit stops, strategy, all that kind of stuff, working through traffic. You learn all of that through the race, and you know it all comes to nothing. And there's another quote I want to take from Alan Moffat, who's a Canadian race driver, amazing name out in Australia, and he said once is that, you know, unless you're there on the last lap, all the others count for nothing. So if you've done all that work, if you're not there on the last lap with checkered flag, effectively all the work you've done just at that point is effectively in some ways pointless.
And of course, we saw that yesterday in the iRacing.com Talladega 500, which again, by the way, is on our YouTube channel. And drivers, you know that quite often. And let's talk about Lewis Hamilton, for example, the final race of the season back in 2008 when he won the championship. You know, you have to be there on the last lap if you're going to get the points you need to get victory. And you talk about that, you know, consistency. That's always the important thing. By the way, Jorn Jens, he is going to see the white flag this time by. There are 45 seconds left on the play clock, so Jorn Jens about to start his final lap of the race. He was actually there cruising a little bit through the final, the final corner, and still going fast, of course. Last lap of 1 minute 13.9. I'm thinking Jorn Jens is just having to coast the car home because of the fact he's gone so quickly early in this race. He could have probably slowed it down and almost won the race, but Jorn Jens, he's on that final lap now, coming through the S's for the final time. He's got one car ahead of him, which he'll have to overtake before the checkered flag. That is the car of Craig Hunter, the car who had issues earlier on in that race in the number 89 car, and Jorn Jens will catch him coming out of turn number 7. Play clock, it's over. The checkered flag is now waving at the start of finish stripe. These guys are on their final lap of the race. Here comes Jorn Jens onto the back straightaway for the final time. He has dominated in that number 64 car, the My380 machine, since the start of this race. Let's not forget, he's the guy who qualified on pole position, 0.2 of a second faster than anyone else in qualifying. He has led pretty much every single lap of this race. He comes out of the chicane, up the hill, down the hill for the final time. Jorn Jens is going to win overall in the Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans. He can now do the famous wiggles. My380 take this top step in LMP. William the Vike has still got himself about half a lap left to go in GT1. In GT2, it is Rup Tequila working himself down towards turn number 6 as well. In fact, as William the Vec just pulls ahead of him. The GT1 and GT2 race leaders, they are going to be coming home pretty much alongside each other. As the Vec, he's kind of got out the throttle a little bit as well now. These cars bringing it home in LMP, coming home in P2 is going to be Andre Borcher coming out of the final corner. He comes home second. Mac Backham is out of fuel, and he will come home just about in 3rd position there. And Rob Cuss looks as though he came 4th position there as well. 3 laps down, but a good 4th place there for Rob Cuss. The bike comes down the hill. He will claim the GT1 victory, and right behind him, Rup Tequila claiming GT2 victory there as well. And we talked about Mike Backham, how he was slower at the end of the race. We found out the answer, Scott. It was all down to fuel.
It was possibly. There was a possible thing. Maybe he was just allowing Rob to finish ahead of him to possibly get a lap back on him. So that could have been possible, or that could have been a potential photo opportunity. But yeah, great run from the top 3, of course. And Rob Cuss, again, shout out to him. 4th place. Great run. 3 laps down the leader, but let that be said, that's taking nothing away from the fact he put in a great effort to get that car to the finish, and that's a lot that can be said, but it's a lot more that can be said for any of the other LMP2 cars, because pretty much the majority of the LMP2 field did not even see the flag. So 5 LMP2 cars at the end of that race. Great job by all of them. And of course, again, congratulations, of course, to William the Vet for that fantastic GT1 drive, and of course Rupert Tequila for securing GT2. In fact, I personally, I'm going to call my driver of the day now. I'm going to give it to William the Vet. He started 5th. Brilliant run through the field, and then just dominated as soon as he got at the front. So he's my driver of the day. Great effort.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Let's run through your final race classifications then. Jorn Jens, in a time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, 31 seconds, claims victory overall in the LMP class, and of course that's overall victory as well. Andre Borcher comes home second, 40 seconds back. Mac Backham comes home in 3rd position. Rob Cuss 4th. Vincenzo Amico rounds out your top 5. David Grunell in 6th. Jeremy Boutaloop in 7th position. Andre Martins in 8th. Tommaso Carla in 9th. Shamar Bennett 10th. Enzo Benito, Fabio Gonzalez, Roderick Cronin, and Simon Cattell. The rest of the drivers in LMP. In GT1, William Levike takes victory from Anders Stahl. Maxim Ramstein in 3rd. Farouk Manzar 4th. Kevin Beekmans in 5th. Yoel Guiz in 6th position. Marcus Meyer in 7th. Julian Oligo in 8th. Yuri Ritok in 9th. In 10th is Richard Shoptuem. In 11th, Blake Townend, Yuri Lotari, Timo Verset, Kevin Parrish, and Neil. They are your GT1 finishers. And then GT2, Rup Tequila, Phil Diaz, Oliver Brand, Ahmed Yamin, Jonathan Fuller, Craig Hunter, Mike Thiessen, Giuseppe Volker Jr., Nick Vestige, Eric Vedoff, Jan-Paul Neelas, Mohammed Patel, Sven Booker, and Stefan Mushlar. They are your finishers. Going to step aside for a moment. We'll be right back with interviews after this. So, welcome back to the post-race show for the 2013 Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans, brought to you by Fnatic. And let's run through your victors again one more time. Jon Jens, your victor in LMP. In GT, William Levesque in GT1, and then Roop Tequila in GT2. Let's talk to your winner in the GT1 class. William Levesque, congratulations. You dominated GT1 despite qualifying in the 5th position, worked your way through the field, stormed home to victory. How was it?
It was great. The first stint was a bit scruffy. Made a couple of mistakes. I got a hit from Blake after I decided to become a rabbit in turn 5. But other than that, it was a pretty clean race. I'm quite happy with that. Traffic was fine. A few risky moves here and there, but nothing over the top. So that was quite good.
And competition's been fierce in pre-qual and qual and the race itself. But in the race, you were able to shine on. We noticed that, for example, Andrew Starr had issues with his tyres on the second half of his stint. But you seemed to get faster as the laps ticked off. Was there a specific game plan you had coming into this race? For example, you know, with your car setup, the way you were driving, your mentality at all?
My setup was the same I used all season long in the official series. So nothing different there. Strategy, I mean, I expected to qualify better than that, but I was unlucky screwing up a couple laps and having wrong wins at the wrong places. But in the race I wasn't too worried because it's 2.5 hours, so I knew I had time to pick people one after the other.
Well, congratulations, GT1 victory. Give some shout outs to people.
Well, my team, NX, obviously. Great fun with Timu, Simon, Phil in the channel. And, well, I guess everybody I've raced with all season and the new guys I've raced with this time around.
Well, congratulations, PSA P1 in the GT1 car. Let's now talk to your victor in the LMP class. Jon Jens, my Freddy at the top step of the podium once again. The number 64 car coming home in first place. Dominant victory. Lights a flag. Qualified and pole. Is there anything else I can say, really?
I don't know. It was a kind of perfect race. I hit a very good lap on qualifying with no traffic and had a bit luck with the weather conditions because they were changing a lot during qualifying, and in the end I was not able to run as fast as before.
Qualifying was good. You got pole position by 0.2 of a second. You looked as though that for the first half of the first stint you had a couple of cars stay with you, but then as the pit stops unraveled, you just eked out a enormous gap. Big question really is, how did you manage to maintain your concentration mentally, knowing you had such a big lead growing?
Yeah, it was kind of tough with these conditions because you had to accept the fact that you cannot go faster than 90% all the time. And if you really had to push it to 100% to close a gap, it was very easy to make mistakes and lose a couple of seconds.
Well, congratulations in your victory in the LMP class. Who'd like to give a shout out to?
Please?
Anyone? Who would like to say thank you to?
Yeah, I would like to thank Andre Bocha for the good work he did with me this week, and yeah, and for my spotter Martin Kroenke.
Well, congratulations. Going to hand it now over to Scott, and he is stood by with, wait a minute, with Andre Bocha.
Indeed, and Andre, of course, second place. Great effort for you today. The main story of the race for you was kind of the battle you had with Mac Backham in the closing stages. Just talk us through that, because it looks as though at one point you were struggling a little bit and you were going back and forth. But just how did that go from your point of view? Because eventually you managed to overhaul him and get second place.
Yeah, thanks first of all. Yeah, in the last stint I was trying to save some fuel because I wasn't sure if yeah, really good on fuel to make it to the end. So yeah, at some point when Mark was still behind me, I was going a bit slower to save some fuel and he passed me. But yeah, when I was sure again that I was good on fuel, I was going faster again and could eventually catch up with him and pass him in the end.
And of course, this is one of these races where obviously we're usually used to seeing you in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix series. So how much of I'm not sure how much endurance racing you've done, but how much of a difference is it, for anyone who's wondering, just what are the main differences between running effectively an hour, a sprint race of sorts in the F1 cars compared to this endurance style event with the LMP2 cars? Is there any major differences? Is there anything kind of that stands out between the two of them?
Yeah, there definitely some difference. In the World Championship, you have only one car of a class, and yeah, in an endurance race with so many classes, you just have to yeah, watch out for so many things like cars coming up in your rear view mirror, cars you are overtaking in front of you, which are going way slower than yourself, and I think the most important thing is just to survive in an endurance race, not to have any contact with other cars which are in a different class, which you need to overtake, and yeah, there's quite a big difference. I would say an endurance race is quite a bit more difficult than yeah, just a normal sprint race, if you want to call it so.
Absolutely. Well, you managed to do the last distance, as you said, and you managed to get that second place, so congratulations. Finally, before we hand it back to Will, is anyone you want to say thank you to at all?
I'm guessing that's a no.
I'm guessing that's possibly a no. So the silence kind of says it all. So I guess with that, thank you very much, Andre. Great effort for second place, and well done. You can go and celebrate that. And Will, I'll hand it back to you.
Cheers, Scott. Let's talk to a couple of Radicals drivers. Shut up, Rob. You're not commentating today. Let's talk to Mac Backham and Rob Cuss. Came home third and fourth places, respectively. Mac, I'm going to come to you first. Congratulations, by the way. We have the Kleenex Award. You won today the GlacierTV Let's See How Many Times I Can Get My Car Sideways Award in that number 16 machine. So congratulations.
Well, to be fair, Kevin Bakemans has 27 more incidents than me.
We're only joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, let's talk to you very quickly first, Mac. Great battles all day long in the top five there. With yourself, Andre Borcher. You also had Tommaso Carla there, and there's someone else, but I've forgotten who it was. And it was very entertaining battle all race long, but very tight, close racing. Was it as hard to drive as it looked from our angle?
Yeah, I think so. The wind made everything so much more difficult because not like every lap was different. Sometimes turn one was in fifth gear and full throttle, and then next lap it was third gear and you almost still went off. So that made things very weird. I think the top five went off simultaneously in one lap in one corner, I think. So that kind of showed it.
And I mean, as the race progressed, it looked as though that, you know, you were having that battle of Andre Borcher go right down to the wire. However, the last stint, it looked as though that you dropped back to about 5 seconds in the end. Did you actually run out of fuel there on the final corner of the last lap, or was it just you slowing down to get one of those radical photo opportunities with Rob?
No, I was actually racing into the last corner, but I hit a landmine, like I think 15 laps before the end, which is when I had a 5-second lead over Andre. So I lost about 10 kilometers top speed, so that kind of hurt me. But yeah, I was, I think, 2 seconds behind Andre in the last corner, but then I slowed down a bit to go over the line with Enzo and Rob.
And Rob, somehow, I don't know how, he came fourth. Well done.
Thanks, mate. I don't know how I did it either. I feel sorry for everyone that crashed in front of me, but you got to keep on the track to finish, in here. So 3 laps behind Mac, but.
So I mean, that number 21 car, as you say, came home 3 laps down, but again, as we said before, to finish first you have to finish. To finish fourth you have to finish. But take us through your race. It did seem as though that, you know, you had some good consistent pace there in that number 21 Radicals machine.
What, consistent pace with the grass?
Yeah.
I made so many mistakes. It was hilarious. And I don't know. I don't know what happened. Enzo had engine issues and stuff like that, so he dropped back behind me. And I don't know. It's so hard to race. Those boys that finished the race 1, 2, 3, unbelievable, because that was hard work. As Max said, changed every lap. So crazy.
Right, I'm bored of talking to you two now, so would you like to say some thank yous to people before you go back to Radical Land?
Yeah, all the radicals, Steel Series, everyone that sort of chills out and hangs with us, and you, and the GlacierTV crew for, I'm sure, a fantastic broadcast.
By the way, you owe me dinner because you didn't bother to turn up yesterday.
Yeah, all right. Next time you're there, I'll treat you.
Okay. Rob, Cuss, and Mac Backham there. They came home from 3rd and 4th respectively in LMP. We've got a couple more minutes. We've got the chance to talk to a couple more drivers. Oliver Brandt, first of all, he came home in the 3rd position in GT2. Oliver, you were on a pretty interesting strategy, a 3-stopper in the end, because you had some issues with the wall midpoint of the race. Were able to hang on to that 3rd place, but were you close from fuel there at the end, by the way?
No, I knew from a lot of testing exactly how much fuel I'd need or how long I could go on a tank of fuel. So as soon as I ticked over that point, I just threw it into the pits, and I knew I could just drive it home from there. Didn't really have anything to drive for or anything to fear from behind, so I just trickled home.
Had you have not had that, moment when you decided to make love to a wall, what were your expectations? Because you were actually pretty close behind Rupe for a good part of the first part of the race. Less than 10 seconds behind him, matching his lap times. Could you have gone for victory?
I don't know. I was giving it everything I had, but but Rupe was in a class of his own in the end. I mean, he didn't make any mistakes. He was just exemplary in the way he drove. I think I could have held on to 2nd with a bit of luck. Philip Diaz was really coming on strong as well, really fast. I had a good battle going with him, unfortunately, until I hit the wall, unfortunately. But yeah, that's how it is. Was 100% my own fault. I was struggling a bit with the weird wind conditions out there. So one lap you'd come into the chicane, the end of the lap, and you'd break your normal mark, and you just go nearly straight on and lose the rear come on the turning point. And other laps you'd feel like, wow, I'm going too slow here. And my setup didn't really agree with that temperature change either. I couldn't really slide the car like I did in the default weather. I was sliding it a lot in the default weather, and I got a lot of understeer here in the new weather conditions. But it was the same for everyone, so can't really complain about it.
Well, you came home 3rd. Anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, well, thanks to Jan Paul for disconnecting, because that probably would have killed my podium hopes if he didn't. It's a bit it's a bit sad to take it like that. I feel sad for the guy, but yeah, nah.
Well, Oliver Brandt coming home 3rd in class. Going to hand it over to Dan Blake very quickly. He stood by with Phil Diaz.
Bill, 2nd place finish there. Bit too quick for you, but was it hard to keep your focus going?
I've been doing endurance racing for quite a few years now, so I mean, focus wasn't too much of it. It was just trying to know who was behind me, and then Rupe, how far he was embarrassing us in front of me. So I guess, yeah, just keeping focused, trying to just keep it on track. After Oliver went off, I didn't even know if he was still in the race. Someone told me he was still in the race. I remembered the fast repair. So focus-wise, not too much, just mainly just trying to keep it on the road.
The other drivers have said that weather conditions out there were quite tough. Is that something you found as well?
The temperature was better for my tires. However, the wind just turn 1. If I was gaining time before I got to turn 1, I was braking way earlier just so I didn't fly off the track, because 3 out of 4 laps you're almost going off in turn 1, and then on the back straightaway you think you have a good lap going, lap's ruined. And you think you can brake later into the following corner because you have the headwind, and then suddenly it's now a tailwind. So you're running wide in the next corner. It was just constantly throwing you off.
Being a GT2 car in a race like this is the lowest class. Just keep your wits about you. Do you have any near misses with any of the faster classes?
Definitely at the beginning. I had about, I want to say, 4 to 5 HPDs and 3 Corvettes passed me in 1 lap. And it all started with Blake and somebody else right behind me going into turn 2. I had an HPD pass me into turn 1, and then turn 2, I didn't know which way Blake was going. He was on my left side looking like he was going to shoot in at the very last second, and I just closed the door on him. That bunched everybody up, and then it was just mayhem after that. But, I mean, as people dropped out of the race, it was a bit easier to maintain everything after that.
Well done. It sounds like you had a very exciting time out there, but you got the result, which you'll probably be happy with. So well done on that one.
Thank you.
And we're almost done. We're almost there. Neil Heckins, Eggo Sandfield, of course, you guys do race control every single race, and we never thank the organisers, but thank you, because, I mean, of course, Neo Endurance Series has now become arguably the premier endurance series in all of iRacing, so first of all, well done, congratulations to that. Been a good race once again, and on a track which is so small and so narrow, I have to say, very few penalties awarded today.
Yeah, indeed. But the nutrition rate was kind of high. I think over 50% of the drivers actually dropped out and did not finish. But a lot of those issues were pure lone issues where drivers just went into the wall or had other issues. So, yeah, from our perspective, it was a kind of a good day. But I feel a bit sad for the drivers that they had to fight all the tornadoes and wind changes. But yeah, it was a great race overall, definitely.
And the race itself, I mean, it was good racing. You talk about the wind, though. It played a big part in this race. It seemed to be as if tornadoes were actually heading into Georgia. Any potential changes for the race in 3 weeks' time at Zolder?
I'm not sure that Soldo has as many tornadoes as Road Atlanta used to have, so I think we'll stick to this realistic weather, but we'll definitely take note of this and see how it goes. But yeah, also I must remember to announce the winner of the Clean X Award, and Robert Tequila once again did it. So fantastic with one incident throughout the entire race again. This guy's just an excellent driver. So big congrats to him. $10 is hitting his way.
In the tornado, of course.
Indeed.
And also finally, very
you
big
can find that $10 in odds.
Shut up, I'm commentating. And also, once again, a very big thank you to Fanatec, the presenting sponsor of the Neo Endurance Petit Le Mans. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Don't forget, 3 weeks' time, the Neo Endurance Zolder 2.4 hours. Going to be a great race there on another tight technical racetrack. It's all about how you run over the chicanes. Traffic's going to be important there once again. 3 weeks' time. And the start time for that will be 6 p.m. GMT. Congratulations to the 3 class winners. Of course, to Jorn Jens, to William Levike, and also to Rupe Tequila, who is the Kleenex Award winner as well. For myself, Will Vincent, from Dan Blake, from Scott Woodris, Randall Shenworth, and of course, Yoni Backman on cameras. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.